Oh, okay. No. Ah!
CoCo Talk would like to thank our patrons who sponsor our show each week. So warm gratitude goes to Al Hartman, Alan Huffman, Alan Murphy, Blair Ledoux, Brendan Donahue, Brian Joyce, Brian Weasler, Christina Armstrong, D. Bruce Moore, Davey Mitchell, Diego, Disney Saints fan, Eric Canales, Fedor Stamen, Glenn Hewlett, Grant Leedy, Jason Bucata, Jason Downs, Jenna Farron, Ken Reichert, Kyle Etter, Malfunct, Michael Pitsley, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Richard Lorbieski and Voice on Technologies, Rob Inman, Stephen Wagner, Steve Bjork, Terry Steen, Terry Steggy, The Backyard Shed Gang, Tom C., Tom S., and Tim Lindner. Thank you so much, patrons. CoCo Talk is an unscripted live broadcast. Anything can and will happen. The views and opinions expressed by members of the panel and the live audience are their own and not necessarily those of the CoCo Talk show, its sponsors, affiliates, or subsidiaries. Open minds encouraged, sense of humor recommended. If any off-color comments were made, we're sorry.
Hi, this is Dale Lear, designer of TRS 80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCo Talk.
James Differendaffer is trying to join. Frodo's saying it's not on YouTube. Of course, I'm coming out over the air right now.
This is CoCo Talk, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer. It's time to drop your socks, grab your real-time clocks, and let's rock.
CoCo Talk is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, cause CoCo Talk is rocking the 8-bit world.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to CoCo Talk, episode 167, where we celebrate the greatest day in American history. We're talking about none other than the birth of Tom C. from Jersey, everybody.
CoCo Talk is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, cause CoCo Talk is rocking the 8-bit world.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the greatest American holiday ever. We're talking about Tom C.'s birthday. We got to kick things off with a little bit of happy birthday song. So we're going to do what we always do, being synchronized in a completely unsynchronized way and being completely talentless. We're going to do this whole group happy birthday sing along here to celebrate the birth of Tom C. So on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. This is horrible. Happy birthday. We're ruining his birthday. To you. Happy birthday, Tom C. Oh!
Skills.
Birthday to you. Somebody count to 4.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I was lip syncing.
It's the greatest simulation of a drunken sing-along I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Blame the lag.
I've heard better orchestra warm-ups.
Yeah, so today is the day we celebrate the birth of Tom C. from Jersey. Let's go around the room and say hi to our panel. He likes to stream until his computer blue screens. It's none other than Mark Bosley with us. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hello.
Happy Tom C.'s birthday to you, Mark Bosley. We've got
birthday,
our
Tom.
resident Apple guy with his goggles into the future. Mark Overholzer is with us. Hello, Mark.
Hey there, glad to be here, and happy Tom C. birthday to you, too.
That's right. It's always sunny in Arizona, which is why Ron Delvaux is wearing sunglasses. Hey, Ron.
That's right.
And Canada doesn't recognize American holidays like Tom C.'s birthday, but we don't hold that against them. Nick Marotta, how are you today, sir?
Doing really well. I'm looking forward to the Tom C. musical coming up in the second hour of the show.
It is the Tom C. sing-along. We got a guy, I'm not sure, he had a voice condition a while ago. Brian Schubring, how's your voice this week? Okay, that went off as smooth as our sing-along did.
Hello, everyone.
The stunt double for Mark Overholzer, Mikey Furman's with us. Hey, Mikey.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, Mikey, can you
Can't see you out of one eye.
Can you do me a favor? Can you tell me if I have any polyps right now? Are you seeing anything?
It's Mikey of board.
Oh, this does not look good.
too.
It's his imitation of Lacutus.
From Canada, where it's always great, white and north. Al Curtis Boyle's with us. How's it going, eh?
Hello, everyone. Happy birthday, Tom.
And the guy, the man of the hour, Tom C. from Jersey. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right.
We
Just kind of hanging around today.
We don't get you on. We don't get you on very often, so it's very nice to have you here, where we can celebrate your birthday today.
But don't worry, we'll be celebrating you nationwide with fireworks later. So.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you.
Alan Murphy's with us. Hello, Alan.
Howdy, howdy. Happy birthday, Tom C.
And now this guy here, if you need something over-engineered, over-designed, and over-blueprinted, Rick Eulin's got you covered. How you doing, Rick?
Oh, pretty good. Despite it being Tom C's birthday, I figured I could spend a little time.
That's great. That's great. And does everybody have their Tom C cake ready and the Tom C fireworks ready to fire off later on tonight? We got that guy who made the game of the week this week, the creator of Gana Buena, Steve Bjork, is with us. Hello, Steve. We didn't hear you, but
He's a man of few words.
Kind of coughing here, so hey, everybody.
Thank you for a great game. Thank you for many great games. So we had an incredibly great game to play this week. We have the guy who's creator of Rally SG, the most celebrated game of last week's show, is with us from Down Under. It's Nicholas Marientes. Hey, Nick, how are you?
Good day, everyone.
All right. And we have from Boyson Technologies, creator of Dark Overlord, Darth Vader-looking circuit boards. Richard Lorbieski is with us.
I'm trying to decide what's worse, being on CoCoTALK or trying to wish Tom C a happy birthday. No, it's my people skills. I'm sorry.
All right.
Happy birthday, Tom.
And last but certainly not least, optimizer of the MC10 ROM and all-around decent human being, James Different is with us. Hello, James.
I don't know. That last one might be debatable, you know.
All right. Well,
happy birthday, Tom.
We have a lot to cover today, and we have Steve Bjork with us. Steve's availability, based on his schedule, he may have to bounce out of here quickly. So we're going to get to GameON results right away, so we can have get some of Steve's feedback on his game and our input to him and how we enjoyed his game. But real quick, I want to show you guys something. I'm talking Jersey now, you guys, because we haven't done a good enough job promoting this. But in our CoCo Discord server, I created a group called the CoCo-art-gallery. And there's a reason why we created this group. And this was actually Alan Murphy's suggestion, because he said back in the day in the Rainbow Magazine, people would submit artwork they created on their CoCo to the Rainbow Magazine, and those would get featured in the Rainbow Magazine. So we're thinking, and I kicked it off by just showing you some random generated artwork based on one of my old demos, just to throw some stuff in here. Here we got something from Mr. Dave 6809. That's really cool looking. And then Davey Mitchell showed us some cover art from one of the games he was working on. This is from David O'Connor from his Pulse Eternal. He's working on a CoCo music album, so he's doing some CoCo related artwork there. But the one that closely resembles, Alan Murphy posted this picture here, which looks pretty cool. We got Chuchilla. I can't say this guy's name, but it looks pretty cool. What is his name here, Alan?
Well, that's not Cthulhu.
Cthulhu, there we go.
But it could be.
It could be.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll call him Cthulhu for now. And then this was really cool here, too. So this was a demo that Davey Mitchell was talking about. I think you guys talked about this on the show last week, where it models terrain, right? And this one here is kind of showing it where it blocks out the lines of the terrain. But what we got that really resembled actual art comes to us courtesy of our actual artist on the show. But Ron Delvaux did this lovely paint. What was this program here, Ron? Is this Coco Max?
One or the other.
Yeah.
I forget.
Okay. So Ron Delvaux did a really cool painting on an actual CoCo. And this is what we're looking for. Is show us a picture of you generating artwork on your CoCo, either in a drawing program or writing a program or whatever it is. So we're just throwing that out there as a teaser that we would like people to start throwing some pictures, some CoCo-related artwork in our Discord channel called the CoCo-art-gallery. And then we'll feature that every week. And who knows, it might even become everyone's favorite segment, the CoCo Art Gallery, but that's to be determined. So far, it went over like a lead balloon. But there we have it. So why don't we do this? We've got a lot to cover this week, and we've got several panel discussions. We've got a lot of things were brought up in Facebook this week that are worth talking about, so we'll have some panel discussions. But we're going to jump into everyone's favorite part of the program, the GameON results, starting with a very mediocre and underproduced CoCo Thoughts by none other than Samuel Gimes. And so enjoy this, folks, and then get ready for GameON results.
And now, CoCo Thoughts by Samuel Gimes. I don't think I can come up with any GameON related thought this week. What am I going to do? Come on, relax. Relax and count. Relax and count. Go ahead and count. Count.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gotta wanna. Here comes the shot. Watch it now. Watch it now. Gonna get you. Booga told Booga about a thing he saw. Big pit helmet and a bearded jaw. Gonna wanna. Booga told Ooga, let's don't take no chance. Grab all the big arrows, shoot 'em in the pants. Gonna wanna. Here come. I'm gonna get you. Grab one. Look out. Bouncing boulders. Booga told Booga, don't let him get the map. Lead him to the top hit. Ain't going waste that zap. Gonna wanna.
Wow. Well, Steve Bjork is here. This was Steve's game. Were you insulted or offended in any way by that?
The only thought I had is when we were developing this game, I never thought it would come to this.
You know, this is the #1 trending song in the elevator to hell.
Samuel Gimes has become quite the musical producer, but
I mean, he topped. I thought Nightmare Highway was.
But one comment show out with a copyright strike.
Yeah, but one comment I did bring up was all that beautiful artwork that you saw.
Mm-hmm.
That was done by the same guy that did the Indiana Jones comic book.
Yes, for Marvel Comics. Yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it's very. I have that comic book. I have the original package, so it's very cool to have that.
Yeah, Tandy was very. I remember Mark Siegel goes, "We got him." I got who? We got the guy that did the Indiana Jones comic book for Marvel.
Wow.
I think it was Marvel. And was there a prom game? Oh, we just had to pay him.
Just had to pay him.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, Tandy has a tendency to try and get out paying for things.
Absolutely. Very cool. All right, well, let's get into the GameON results and let's talk about the game.
High Score Challenge.
All right, guys, welcome to the GameON results. We had a fantastic week this week with 22 people taking part. R. Alan Murphy, 1100. Adam Kenny Dragon, 1740. Mark Bosley, 3080. Frodo, 4200. Jim Rye, 7600. Joshua, 7600. Aaron, 9430. Mr. Dave, 10210. Damon Beals, 11260. Coco Man, 12140. Ken, 12720. Cat Lord, 12930. Me, 13150. Stevie Stroh, 14,000. David Croker, 17090. Tom C, 21440. Redbeard, 216. Tasman, 27650. Rogelio, 28410. Buck Owens, 32960. Paul Shoemaker, 61,000. And the number one score this week is our very own L. Curtis Boyle with 67,700. So yeah, we had a fantastic turnout this week. It was really good stuff. Thank you all
60
for
Now, was that
taking
like
part.
5 minutes when you had a break before supper when you did
No,
that score?
that was actually my second day doing it. And I'll have to give a big thank you to Buck Owens, actually, Steve Rasmussen, because I couldn't remember how to get past the last level where you have to get onto the boat and float up in the balloon. And I couldn't figure out how to get past the treasure chest. And I remember doing it back in the day, but I just could not remember it. So I played it the one day for about an hour, and I can't get any farther than this. So I just stopped. I was on the last level multiple times. And then he posted a video up showing that you have to climb that pole and shoot sideways to take care of the people that are guarding, the path to the boat. Oh, that's how you do it. And then I went back and played it, a day later, and then I got my high score.
Okay.
I think I wrapped it 3 times.
And
or
it
something
flipped?
like that, so.
Okay. Okay.
So you see my screen?
No, we don't see your screen yet, but you are able to share.
Okay.
When it wraps, does the difficulty go up each time?
Yes, they start adding stuff like there's another boat that looks like yours facing
Yeah.
you that's coming after you. You get some extra, people that are on some of the levels,
Right.
trying to shoot you at the same time. I think on the third level, like when you're on the walking path, you get 3 people shooting at you at once, for example.
Wow. Okay,
So
2
here's the
million.
alleged score from back in the day. Steve Burke brought up a good point. Hopefully there was some sort of score validation on these, but 2 million apparently back in the day.
Rainbow was not known for score validation. I'll just say that right now.
This is reported anyway. Take that as you will.
Well, it's just amazing that even Stevie made it in the top 10.
And the review from the Rainbow magazine.
Radio Shack, 64K disc, $29.95. Do you enjoy action games with a bit of adventurous twist? If yes, give Ganabuana a try. You will join Professor Chance, better known as Ganabuana, on his hazardous quest for the great secret of legendary Urbis Island. Wow. This game is by Steve Bjork, Zaxxon, latest creation. It requires 64K CoCo Basic. One disc drive speech sound pack can be added to make the game a little more interesting. Keyboard or joystick.
Yeah, I actually had it, and it has music as well, right? Which I
Yes.
didn't it? Yes. So I like that.
Ken Reichert says they hired Billy Mitchell to verify the scores. So
Baker of fine barbecue sauce as well.
Yes. Very good stuff.
And the most humble guy you'll ever meet.
Yeah. Like I said, I enjoyed playing the game. It was fun.
So we discovered a little. Paul Shoemaker discovered a little glitch playing. So it's a very short clip. So watch the main character, which is Professor right there.
He's falling from the sky,
This
and
is
then he
the-
falls through.
The Portal edition.
Look at that.
So he's just stuck in a loop.
Wow.
So anyway, yeah, so here's just some random gameplay video from Buck Owens right now. So yeah, so what'd you guys think of the game? Keeping them on the authors here.
I enjoyed the heck out of the game. Because I was playing on an emulator and I was using an Xbox controller, hitting the corners was really hard. So I found most of the time I died was because it jumped in the direction I didn't want it to. That was my biggest complaint. I was just too lazy to break out the real CoCo to play it. So
I like using the Black Beauty a lot with this one
Yeah.
for some reason. I just found that was the most predictable in terms of going where I wanted it to.
I have a question from YouTube.
We have a couple questions. One of the questions was any of the original code of Zaxxon reused in this?
Oh, God, yes.
Okay, and then another question was Congo Bongo an inspiration for this game?
Well, I was developing the game. Mark Siegel helped in some of the concepts. We had to get all the concepts done so we could get the comic book done. But yes, I would say that as much as Zaxxon was an inspiration for Congo Bongo, it was the same thing. It's that, it's just that they were taking their engine, their stuff, and they put it in a new format. And we kind of did a similar thing. Similar, but not exact.
Okay. Well, you're right, because it's like you haven't really cloned any of the levels of Congo Bongo, but just the fact that it's isometric and it's kind of jungle-ish themed is where you draw some similarities.
The waterfall level's kind of close to one, isn't it?
That is definitely close to the first level in Congo Bongo.
But there's a lot of other elements too that aren't.
Oh yeah. And honestly, and Steve's here, and I'm not just saying this to blow smoke for him, but it's a really well designed game. It was a fun, playable game, and the difficulty level, even on easy, it seemed like the guy shooting the arrows always knew where you were going to be. And as frustrating as that was, it was nice to say, man, this is brilliant game design and brilliant programming to have your artificial intelligence be so, insightful to things that I was just like, wow.
Yeah, the calculations, believe it or not, were easy even in assembly.
Huh.
Yeah, just really basic math.
But on that one screen where you get all the little orange islands over the water and you're kind of limited in your path where you can go to, it always seemed like his arrow ended up where you were going to jump. And it seems like he knew in advance where you were going to be. If this was a chess game, he knew 10 moves ahead of time where you were going to be to hit you with this dang arrow. That frustrated the heck out of me.
Didn't seem unfair, though. Like some games seem very unfair in their AI, and this seemed very fair.
It just seemed like you had really intelligent enemies. That's all.
I have to say, I played with a deluxe joystick, and I didn't have any problem with the corner diagonals. Like, it was pretty easy after a little bit of practice. So I think you were artificially handicapping yourself there.
Yeah, no, I understood that. So I wasn't blaming the game. I was just, it was still frustrating nonetheless. I got as far as the tar pits. Oh, so what was the deal with the key? Because when it says got key, what do you gain by getting that key? I couldn't play long enough to figure that out.
Well, my memory from 40 years ago isn't that great either.
Did anybody read and find out? Would you get an extra life, or did it unlock the treasure chest or something like that? I just don't remember.
I don't think it unlocked the treasure chest. I'm pretty sure I opened it even without getting the key. Or maybe I did and I just didn't notice. I can't remember.
Yeah, but that was a whole other thing to get was got key. Now, we did find a kind of a fun way to do it with... Ken's saying that the key would open the chest. So maybe if the chest wasn't open, if you never got a key, you wouldn't be able to... What was in the chest? Is it just points?
Yeah.
Okay.
It lets you get up to the final platform to get onto the boat.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just think the game design really well. The way the levels worked out, really fun to play. Different. On the CoCo 3, when you can hold down because there was a patch you did, Steve Bjork, right? You did an official patch for this for the CoCo 3?
Yes.
Right. And so we found that when we ran the CoCo 3 patch and then ran a few palette tweaks, that we got some really cool colors. And so everything that was white, instead of it being white, we used kind of like this pale banana yellow to kind of make it look like the guy had khakis on. And that was kind of cool. Made the light blue a little bit lighter. So it's kind of neat to take the CoCo 3 version and just do a couple palette tweaks on this thing too, and just give it a little bit of, recoloring, kind of like remastering for the 21st century. And it just, those couple little details I found made it really fun to play it, made it a little bit more modern looking,
Though I have to say the original palette, I mean, it's because we're only doing the 4 colors there. He varied the levels quite a bit. The water levels with the blue backgrounds, tar pits with the black.
Yeah.
It does look like each level is unique.
Yeah. Now, see this one here. I never made it to this one here. Let's see if we can see this one play through here. So you get the arrow. You get the bow and arrow. You got a lot of enemies here to deal with.
I like the dithering on the top level.
Yeah. Now, what is that? Like a bat that's flying by, or a bird? What is that dark?
That's a large bird.
Okay. And it looks like it's bobbing up and down, so you have to gauge its elevation when you're there.
Nope.
No.
But if you start climbing that pole to get that crossbow, and it comes up behind you, it'll hit you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And
So that's what you had
top
to
of
do.
that post is where you have to shoot diagonally up to the left towards the chest to get rid of those two people. That's what I couldn't figure out first.
Gotcha.
And of course, so you know that the thing is flying. Notice it's got a shadow.
Yes. Yeah.
Altitude.
Yeah. Shades of Zaxxon.
Exactly.
Literally.
Okay. There's the chest, and then there's the. Look at that. That's how you win the game. So he flies away, flies
And
off
then
into
just
the
like Canyon
sunset.
Climber, you think you're done.
Flies off into the sunset. All is good. We're going home. It's Miller time. Oh no! I've been shot.
Oh crap! It's like Henry Blake all over again.
Oh, wow! And of course, now the difficulty ramps up. Now you've got enemies in the canoes, and they
nice.
they fire
You got
at
the
you.
sharks.
More sharks. A lot more water turbulences to avoid.
Well, the water turbulences actually didn't do anything. They're there so that you're moving.
Oh, I thought they were obstacles. I always tried to dodge them.
Nope.
We're making it harder than it was.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I'm an idiot. What do you want from me?
See, the thing is, when you got towards the end of the level and you picked up all the map pieces, you didn't have much on the screen to show you're in water moving relative to you.
I see. Okay. So that was to keep the sense of movement and stuff happening.
There's a few that would come down, and then as you picked up the map pieces, those map pieces turned into, the ripples in the water.
Okay. That's an interesting little trivial piece there.
Just little things that had to go in.
Now, somebody also, maybe it was Buck Owens, he found out that if you ran a disk hex editor on the disk, there were notes in there, and it said something like this. This game took, 8 months to produce and 4 months to package and this and that and the other. I forgot how exactly it went. Can you find that picture, Nick? I thought that was kind of neat. Somebody discovered
I'm
that.
not actually. That brings up my next question, because you also had hidden message in there about looking forward to Gone Buona 2, and I was going to ask whatever happened to that.
Let's see, a couple of things. I didn't like how much they paid me for this.
That'll do it.
That's a good reason.
There's the hex dump.
Okay.
So when I was talking to them about more stuff, doing the sequel, I said I want to be paid more.
Okay.
Remember my comment earlier about Tandy not wanting to pay people?
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Okay. So here it is here. It says, Gone Buona facts. It took 5 months to develop the concept, 8 months to program, 5 months to package. The most ambitious entertainment program to date. Look for the sequel, Gone Buona 2. The underwater treasure coming soon to a computer near you. Gone Buona facts. It took, okay, and it repeats. That's neat.
Well, there's still time. There's
Yeah.
a Coco market again.
Gone Buona 2, the underwater treasure.
It probably people would buy it.
Right.
How far did you get in Gone Buona 2 before the contract negotiations failed? Like, was it just at the concept stage, or actually it started coding or drawing graphics or anything?
It was the discussion stage.
Okay.
I'm not going to sit there and spend a lot of time on it if Tandy isn't going to pay me enough to do it. Because they wanted to pay me half of what they're paying. I wanted to be doubled. We're just not going to come together on it.
So how did things eventually get straightened out so you actually did write games for them again?
Well, we just went on to other projects that I had more control over.
Oh, okay.
Do you seem to recall, Steve, how this did? What the box office was for it?
It did okay, but like most disc-oriented programs, the sales were low. Mainly for two reasons. One, you had to have a disk drive. Two, if you had a disk drive, you're probably pirating the games anyways.
Okay.
There was a lot of piracy on this.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, it's just, basically like if you're in a major market like Los Angeles or New York or Chicago, there's not much sales at those stores. When I went to a Rainbow Fest, I was talking to one of the Radio Shack people who says, yeah, we don't get much in for the CoCo, especially on the disc software, because we can't sell it. I go, oh, what is it? They think it's bad? No, they just go ahead and pirate it.
Wow. Ken Reichert says the villain in Gone 1 and 2 was Tandy.
But this was produced by me for both the color computer and the Tandy 2000. And of course, that had incredibly low sales because nobody could justify on their business machine buying a game. Matter of fact, it's one of the few games that ever came out for the Tandy 2000 alone.
And that game was like that computer was one of the only production machines to use the 186 processor?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
186 and custom graphics and went up to 640 by 400, which at the time was quite high, but it wasn't fully PC compatible, so sales weren't good even to the business market.
Yeah, the BIOS wasn't compatible. It was only MS-DOS compatible.
We used to call it the incompatible compatible.
Well, when Tandy came out with the 2000, they were worried about getting sued. So that's why it wasn't very compatible.
They did throw some good hardware into it, though, ironically enough. There was good graphics and good sound, better than almost anything else out at the time.
Yeah, it also had quad density discs or whatever. It did 720.
Yeah, those all what ended up happening to the 2000, that became what we called our SOS, our store operating system. So that's when we had to punch in all the yellow tickets at the end of the night. Whoever the assistant manager was had to punch in all the sales receipts into that computer. So it got used for that.
A little secret. I used to work in a Radio Shack store. All those duties that are supposed to be done by the manager get done by the poor schlocks that work there.
Ours was done by the assistant manager, Ernest. He did all the tickets at night. I remember
Were they still on the clock, or was that like after?
I think so. I don't remember.
When I used to have to do it, the store would close at 9, and then I'd start working on it, and the manager only would give me until 9:15 to be done. I usually walked out of there about 10:30.
Wow.
There's Tandy, not one to pay for things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So who
but
on
that
the...
was that was back in the day where they still weren't using the computers yet, so you had to do everything manually.
Yeah, there wasn't networked or anything, so I think all the tickets were punched in, and then they were possibly modemed up to Dallas or something.
Yeah, it was modemed. Yeah, it was it was transmitted through CompuServe.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what CompuServe was for.
Yep.
Oh, I meant to.
But
it wasn't CompuServe, but it was that service that was used. That you dial a local number and you logged in.
TimeNet, Telnet.
Yeah, something like that.
Well,
you asked a question. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say Stevie was going to ask a question about who won something.
Well, I was just going to say who in the panel played the game. I know I played. Tom C played. We had a bunch of people playing this week. 22 people.
Oh, yeah, we had 22 people.
Yeah. Alan Murphy, did you play?
Yes, I did. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Joshua played. I was happy to see he came in at the last minute on Friday along with his dad.
Yeah, I did.
Notice I remember Joshua. I don't remember the dad's name. I do.
David Croker.
I know. I just
okay.
thrown around. That's the joke. You don't really remember the kids, and the parents are just like, whatever.
Right.
But no, I was really glad to see that they got scores in at the last minute yesterday, and we had a good turnout.
By the way, this game did show up in an arcade cabinet.
Really?
Yep. The Color Computer Expo back in, I think it was 87. I took my Defender's machine and stuck a CoCo inside of it and modified it to go to the monitor and put a different control panel on it, of course, because Defender has quite a bit different controls. They don't have a left-right switch. But yeah. So you got to play it in our arcade machine at the expo.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
And did you have the speech sound pack in there too for the full sound effects?
Yep. I mean, it's the CoCo fit very nicely in the bottom of the case. So it's just, and now I think about it, I did put a different monitor in because it was hard to convert the CoCo's video output, even on a composite video. That doesn't work for the analog RGB in the arcade monitor. But yeah.
It would make a good arcade game. You know, I was just thinking about so Congo Bongo. So Congo Bongo, historically, timeline-wise, it came out after Zaxxon, right? Because it used the same type of hardware.
Correct.
Congo Bongo to me seemed like Sega's attempt at jumping in on the Donkey Kong bandwagon fame. You know, because you had the gorilla was the antagonist, right? So you were a guy going after a gorilla who I think also stole your girlfriend, similar to Donkey Kong, right? So you had the big gorilla guy. So I think that was their attempt to cash in on people's infatuation with, going after a big monkey.
In the jungle.
In the jungle, right? So yeah.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of what it was is they're trying to come up with a platform game, and they wanted to take it to the next level.
Okay.
Make it 3D. So they used the technology they developed for Zaxxon and brought it over. Now, I got to work very, very, very closely with Sega when I was doing Zaxxon. I got to see some of the stuff, their test marketing and like that.
Did you actually get to see the original Zaxxon code too, or?
I saw the original Zaxxon code. I also saw the original Zaxxon game, which I could see absolutely 100% why it did not play well in American markets. If you want to see what it kind of looks like, look for a video on Super Zaxxon Arcade. It's got pastel colors. You're battling a dragon at the end.
Huh.
And like that. That was what the original was. But, these companies, they usually, they'll try and develop stuff in-house. But if there's like a smaller company and they, that company's not going to bring it over to America, they'll go ahead and license it and like that. That's exactly what happened with Frogger. That wasn't a Sega creation.
It's kind of like Namco did a lot of stuff for like Pac-Man. Pac-Man was developed in Japan, but wasn't it? Was it Bally Midway or something, or Namco that released it in the United States? I don't remember. So some of that stuff that is,
the two companies that were buying a lot of Namco stuff was Midway, and then of course Atari.
Yeah, Atari licensed Kangaroo and a couple other ones.
Oh God, that was a horrible game.
Yeah, that was another Donkey Kong inspired game that just.
I liked Kangaroo.
Buggy.
Okay, Nick, maybe Kangaroo is in the Donkey game.
Is that the game of the week next week?
Yeah. No, I was talking with Nick Morantes the other day about Kangaroo, and I told him I liked that game, but I guess I'm in the minority.
Does anybody have any feedback on playing the game this week? Especially since Steve's here, or questions for Steve about the development of the game or inspirations, anything like that?
I just remember sucking at it back in the day.
I was going to say probably the number one complaint. It's too hard.
I honestly didn't find it that hard once I remembered that one trick, but
yeah.
But I played it a lot back in the day. That was one of the games I actually bought as a kid that I could, because my budget was quite limited.
Yeah,
it didn't seem cheap at all. Like the AI didn't seem cheap or anything.
No, it seemed like a very well designed game, from how it played to how you moved to how your enemies seemed to anticipate where you were going to be. It was a fair challenge. You didn't feel like you were walking through the park in this game, even on easy.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of variety. I mean, you're still gathering the map points and stuff, but as you go through the different levels, there's different things like having to climb ropes on the waterfall and climb the pole on the final level, and then the difficulty ramping up as you go through the levels. As you go through again, they start adding in new things to deal with.
Yeah, I think one of the best compliments that I got was from Marty Goodman, where he said that in the design of my games, I try and make it so that the difficulty level builds slowly based on your skill. And 2, that when you do die, I back off on the difficulty level, so it gives you a chance to get going again. Because so many game designers would keep the difficulty level up that you'd go, okay, I'm doing great, I'm doing great.
Die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a game player, I found it frustrating. I mean, even things like when I was playing Kangaroo, I was thinking this was a terrible game. I just recently watched a video on it about, this is a game that Atari bought and brought to America. And the management, well, it costs us so much money to make a game or so much money to buy the game. It's basically the same. So, okay, since it's basically the same, we don't care if it's quality or crap.
Well, you should, for your brand and for hopefully sales, right?
That's what the programmers kept saying, because all the Atari developed games, they do have good game design in them. They do have it where it builds up slowly and eventually gets to the point where, it's too hard for you because I got to get somebody else to put a quarter in.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Atari invented that feature. They called it Skill Step in Tempest, and they actually made it a selling point in the original manual.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you, Steve, is this the first or one of the first games you did that actually would save your high scores to disc 2 so that people could compete against themselves for months on end?
Well, it is one of the first disc related games, but every disc game that I did, I tried to put in, if we're going to have a high score system, try to save them off the disk. Now, a good example of a game that does that is Sands of Egypt. You had 10 different slots to save your game to. And
so you could pick up where you left off if you got stuck.
Exactly. Well, the game was so long, you had to do that. Oh no, he's going to leave his CoCo on for 5 days. No parent would want that.
Well, I did that in the very first days. I did because I didn't even have cassette back then.
But I pretty much most of the disc games I did that too. Though the one concern that Tandy had was, well, you're writing to the disc. Aren't you worried you're going to kill the disc? Well, I had stuff in there that if I had IO error on the track that had the game save, I just reformat the track.
There you go. Huh. Cool.
Yeah, so unless the disc was physically damaged in some way.
Exactly. And the thing is, you would only do it once on boot up of the game. And let's see, what was it? One other. If it couldn't read the disc, it would just not have a high score system.
So
how many writes would a floppy disk back then be rated for before you ran into problems? Were there such metrics?
They still write today, so I'm assuming it's quite a bit because I still use real floppies to this day. So from 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, that's a question definitely for another time because it would require research.
And David Ladd,
different brands of floppies and stuff too would be different.
It would require we cannot have any formal floppy discussion without David Ladd present. So
true. Didn't realize he wasn't here today.
Right. Well, I am wearing the David Ladd haircut since he's not here. We have to keep that tradition going. So, all right. So Nick, if I may be so bold as to ask you, what game will we be playing next week?
All right. So this is a CoCo 2/3 game. And it was came as a sort of a group request. Anybody recognize that game? I know it's very difficult to identify.
I don't understand. What is that? What is that? Rubik's Cube? Chinese checkers? What is this?
So we're going to go back to the old days and do some Tetris Throwdown.
Okay.
So this is the
licensed
Tetris.
version of it. Yeah.
Yes. Written by Greg Zumwalt. And this version works in both CoCo 2 and 3. So, if you play on the 3, obviously. So whatever version. So yeah, and just leave the default options. Start from level 0 with no lines. And see what kind of scores we can accumulate.
Okay.
It's Tetris. There should be I think everybody
Yeah,
knows
wake
Tetris
me up.
pretty well.
Wake me up after next week.
Hey, you know what?
That's a snoozer.
Not every game is going to appeal to everybody, but some people did request this when we're talking about different games.
Yeah, we can't always have games with no skill for Stevie. So
Exactly.
I want you to notice something though on the screen. The version number, it's always 3 sets of numbers with 2 digits. That was Tandy's standard.
Because
First one,
they got updated so often.
Exactly.
And to track all those incremental changes that get reburned, right? So,
well, they did have some updates on their disk software, like their OS 9. They did, I think, 3 versions of level 1 as they went on. But yeah, it was very rare they updated games.
Yeah, I mean, almost every game is like 01, 0000. I one time I was tempted to just put in there when I'm sending one out for them to test is this is the first version. It's never going to change.
That should be interesting. I've never played Tetris on the CoCo, so I'll give it a shot.
And just as a reminder, in 3 weeks' time, we're going to be doing Bomb Threat. So people have started ordering. This you can get the disc version from rickadams.org/bomb threat. And people have also been receiving their cartridge versions, Neil, Neil, at cococrew.org. So so we still have some time to order those because it's there's no digital download option on this one. So if you want to take part, you need to have the physical media. So that'll be in 3 weeks' time. And
Now,
again, thank you.
I got a question. I got a question about the game. Physical media. Is he still offering the SD card for the SDC?
Rick Adams?
I don't know.
Yeah. Or did he ever offer that?
No, it's a
He
CD.
never offered that. It's a CD,
He offered the CD. Okay.
which has the bins and the DSK files on it.
Now I'm probably confusing it with somebody else that offered that.
Yeah, I think that was the tree game.
Timberman was on an SD
And
card.
Thayer.
Yeah.
I have one thing to add about Bomb Threat.
Yeah, what's that?
I had purchased an early version, like close to when it came out from the first time, and I did. Rick did set me up with the latest version because I sent him proof of purchase. So that was my question last week because I knew I had a really, really early version.
Apparently there's a video glitch, and this isn't the
Right,
this
the
isn't
version.
the
I think the
kill
version
screen.
that I had the video bug.
Video
so.
glitch.
Well, I thought it was a kill screen where you eventually it
No,
did-
that one apparently never went out and never got distributed. Apparently that was
No, because
caught.
Grant
Only on cartridge.
on cartridge.
Oh, okay.
No, it was distributed on cartridges.
Yeah,
But that bug was a
the
bit of a...
first round on cartridge because Grant found the bug and he got the kill screen. So but
There's
that
a
was
way to
their-
tell which version you have, and I'll post that in the Discord channel.
Well, maybe Rick should have just kept Tandy's version numbering system, made it easier.
Right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what games actually got upgrades. The only one I can remember off the top of my head that actually did get a version number change was Downland because the original one didn't run on the CoCo 3 at all. So they did
Right.
release a patch cartridge with 1.01.00.
All right.
A lot of reasons why the games didn't work on a CoCo 3 that were designed for the CoCo 1. It was the program was simply clear memory all the way through.
Yep, you're including your vector page.
Yep, exactly. And all the patches I did like that for my games for Tandy were just simply, okay, we're going to stop at FE or whatever it was.
Yeah, FDFF.
Yeah, FDFF. So, yeah, just Tandy, why did you change that?
All right.
Thank you, Steve. For,
thanks
being
for
here, too. That was great.
thanks for a great game. Thanks for being here to talk to us about it, and for suggesting to do a Steve Bjork game for the GameON challenge.
No, I noticed you're doing all these games. I'm kind of going, okay, I'm seeing all these obscure games, which is great because people forget about them and like that. And of course, then when you just decide to do mine, you're going to do one of my most obscure games.
And I was going to say too, I think the CoCo community nowadays would offer you a better pay per copy sold if you did write Ganabana 2, just as a hint.
Yeah.
I think our negotiations would be a bit better than Tandy's on a per copy basis.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a brief commercial break, and we're We're going to come back with our first panel discussion about something that came up on Facebook this week, and we'll let Richard Lorbieski lead us on this one. But one of the discussions came up was about desoldering things on your CoCo. And desoldering is obviously something that should be done by those who know how to do it properly. But we can talk about that. I won't even try to solder, let alone desolder. So
I'm with you.
You can guarantee you won't find the OG trying to do any of that. So how about we take a break, and we'll be back, and we'll get into a panel discussion. We've got news. We've got GameON news. We've got updates and acquisitions. We've got plenty to talk about, not to mention Tom C's birthday to celebrate. So more CoCo Talk after these words, everybody.
Hi, this is Eddie Zerbinsky from beautiful Quebec City. Vous écoutez CoCo Talk.
As you're enjoying CoCo Talk, we also want to remind you about the CoCo Discord server. This is a place where people come to connect, to ask questions, to provide answers, to share information, and to socialize. So when you're done, why don't you head on over to the CoCo Discord server and we'll continue the conversation there. The easy to remember link is discord.cocotalk.live. See you on Discord. CoCo123 is the Glenside Color Computer Club community newsletter that's been in publication since 1985. While the Rainbow magazine may be gone, it doesn't mean you still can't have a cool CoCo periodical. Head on over to the Glenside Color Computer website at glensideccc.com and then click on the Documents link to view all the past issues of the CoCo123 newsletter. Not only can you read all of the past and present issues, we'd also love to hear some submissions from you. So if you'd like to send an article, a column, something to talk about, maybe even a program listing, send an email to glensideccc@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. The CoCo World Map is a cool community resource where you can view coconuts from around the world. Head on over to map.cocotalk.live and see where your fellow coconutians happen to be living on the planet Earth. If you would like to submit yourself to be on the CoCo map, send an email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live, and we look forward to seeing you on the CoCo map. Hey guys, it's Stevie Strode. If you've been watching CoCo Talk for a while, hopefully you understand that everyone is welcome to join this show. You don't need an impressive resume to get on. You just need to enjoy the CoCo and be willing to talk about it. There is no wrong way to CoCo. There is no wrong way to be a fan of the CoCo. There's no wrong way to be on CoCo Talk. You just have to want to talk CoCo. So if you would like to join us, then reach out to us on our Discord server, which is discord.cocotalk.live, or send an email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live, and let's get you on the show and let's talk about the CoCo.
Hi, I'm Tim, and you're watching CoCo Talk Live. And I'm playing Daggereth online like that idiot from the book.
Can you dial back on the condescension there as you respond there? All right, and that. We're back. So we are going to get into a panel discussion. However, what we're going to do before we do that, if you guys all remember, you all remember how I've been commenting on how dreamy Nick Marotta's hair is and how dreamy he's been looking. And of course, we had a fan submitted. Somebody went on the archives and they found an old cover of Tiger Beat magazine that Nick Marotta was on the cover of with his dreamy hair. Well, the archives have been scoured again, and another vintage Nick Marotta sighting was found. This was submitted to us by a fan of the show. You guys ready for this latest Nick Marotta vintage sighting? Here we go.
Say no.
No, but go ahead anyway.
Here we go. The smooth Canadian. Look at that.
Wow.
Look at him. It says this Canadian has a reputation for smoothness, so you won't catch him drinking anything less than the smoothest whiskey around. Windsor, a whiskey made with glacier-fed spring water and aged in the clear, clean air of the Canadian Rockies. Nick Marotta, the smooth Canadian, everybody.
Yeah,
my horse is parked outside.
Yeah, but the model in that photo doesn't look happy.
Thanks, Steve.
That's because he's keeping all the smooth whiskey to himself there.
Like Tandy, they weren't willing to pay her much.
The smooth Canadian, Nick.
That's her sultry look.
That is Nick. Nick is just a man about town. I got to tell you, we want to be Nick Marotta one day. So,
and if we fail at that, at least have his hair.
I'll put it on eBay after I get it cut.
All right. So, does anybody remember what the lead-in was? What was the discussion about soldering that we're going to talk about now? Because, Richard, you want to lead with this or take the ball with this here?
Oh, okay. Well, it was posted last night, I believe.
Okay.
Or earlier that yesterday, but basically it's been the ongoing discussion about the use of desoldering tools and how to desolder, especially the 6809, and there's
versus a destructive removal, I think was
destructive versus taking it out outright, and there's pluses and minuses in both arguments here. Me personally, I have the equipment and the know-all, or the way to at least salvage the chip. But for best practices, it's actually better to clip it out, because I've seen so many people who try to desolder that chip and try to keep it intact wind up destroying the board, which is far more expensive than that chip. The chip is, at most could cost upwards of $20 versus, you can't replace a CoCo 3 motherboard anymore. So, again, it's just one of those ongoing things, and there was some of the things I wanted to talk about as far as why you would clip it out besides trying to desolder. Some people have, like myself, I have a desoldering tool that it's made by Pace. It's probably one of the best ones you can get, but there's also another one that has a pistol grip. I think it's Haiku, or Haiku. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's a pistol grip. Yeah, it's a pistol grip one. I'm not a particular fan of the pistol grip. That's why
Tom C's got one.
Yeah, Tom has one. He's showing it right there. And that's actually a really good one. But even with that, desoldering tool, whatever one you have, it's still a difficult task to take out and keep it intact. So, my thing is, if you do it or attempt to do it, my thing is go ahead and clip out the chip instead of trying to desolder it out, and trying to keep it intact. Let's see if I can share the screen. I can't share a screen.
Okay, let me stop sharing, and then sorry about that. Somebody wake me up. All right. Okay, good. Yeah. All right. You can share now, Richard.
I can share. Okay. So right here. Okay. Am I sharing yet? Oh, wait a minute. Okay. So is it showing?
I now see wallpaper and some pictures. Yes.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and maximize this. This is the this is the picture that I use. I use a Pace. This is the soldering station itself.
Okay.
And let's see, where's the other picture that I have here? Oh, it's down here. I'm sorry, I'm not as organized here. And these are the two tools that I use. This top one up here is my soldering pencil.
Okay.
And the reason I like using the Pace here, you can see this little screw. It's very easy to take these solder tips out, because I use like three tips that I use. I use a chisel type, which is this one here. I have a concave, and I have two types of concave. This here is the desoldering tool here, and again, it's the problem. The other problem that I don't recommend people when using this tool, some kind of solder sucker like that, is with Tandy. This is the back end of a CoCo 3. If you notice something, that these leads are clipped, so it's very difficult to put a desoldering tool down in here and trying to suck that solder out, because what will happen is, even if people use like a manual tool, like a solder pullet, trying to get this stuff out, is it will leave a little residue, what they call solder sweat. And it's and when people try to pull the chip out, what will happen is it'll take the pad along with it, and along with the trace. So again,
That's
it's
a
not
bad thing.
It's a bad thing. It's very, again, it takes skill to get these things out. And most of the time with Tandy boards is you could still remove most of the solder or majority of it, and there's still like this little 1%, just a little smudge left that still has a tension between the via or the via and the lead itself. And so you try to have to break that tension sometimes when you pull the chip off. There's a video that Stevie did of me actually desoldering a 6809 out. And you could see when I tried to pry that chip out after I desoldered it, there's still tension on that chip. And again, it takes some skill to pull that chip out. It just doesn't come out cleanly in one piece. Sometimes you have to jimmy it a little bit. This particular board here, this is a different board right here. This is where I'm showing you a close-up. You can see the leads right here that are exposed here. This is much easier to desolder a chip out. And I could show you where, let's see, where is it? Yeah, here's the top part. As you can see, when I desolder it, you can see how cleanly it comes out. You can see that there's no solder in here, and it's very easy to do when you have those leads out there. But unfortunately, when you don't have that, this is what usually winds up. I have a whole stack of boards like this. As you can see, people apply too much heat. They pull these chips up. Give you the top part here. Actually, this is one that I have actually desoldered. This is a CoCo 3 board that I just demonstrated, my desoldering skills. I decided to take out all the chips. But let's see, here's one that the top part where you can pull the traces out. You can see all these pads are gone because when the person pulled this chip out, and you could also see in this area right here is they used a screwdriver, and when they pried it up, they actually scraped the solder mask, and they also messed up the traces right here, and they cut the traces as well when they attempted to pull this chip out. That's the other thing that you have to, there's proper tools that actually to extract these chips out, and a lot of people don't do that. Okay, I'm finished.
Richard, Tandy Cocoa boards, they're just simply two-sided opposed to four layer. They're only
right.
two layer.
Yeah, and the other thing is these boards are 30 years old, and the way that these are manufactured is there's an adhesive that the copper is put onto the board itself, and that adhesive, it breaks down. So that's when you apply heat to it, so these traces and pads actually come undone from the board itself, so they become brittle. So sometimes even when you do have a clean solder joint or clean out the solder out completely, sometimes that pad is loose on the chip, on the board itself. So you have to be really careful with these. Most of the time, you can only desolder these chips once. You only have one shot at it.
And that's a good illustration where you were pointing there to chip 10. You've got a trace coming in from one side, a trace going out the other side. There's probably a via and a trace on the back. So if you break one of those pads, you've got to fix a whole lot of stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's why I have like this other board that I have where it's where is it? This one here that I desoldered all the chips. I actually use this board as a way to trace down broken traces. I can use a continuity tester to check where the traces are. It's very difficult in a manual. They have the picture of the board with the traces, but sometimes it's hard to look at an illustration. It's just much faster and easier to do it with the continuity meter.
Very cool.
6809 processors are still available commercially.
James yes.
still has them.
Yeah, what they are, they're used. They're not brand new ones. They haven't made new ones since 2000.
Of course, your website has a good supply of them too, right?
Yeah, I get them from a source in China, but what I do is I test them all out before I ship them out. Because a lot of I've received stuff from China that are fakes, relabels, and stuff like that, and I have to deal with that, and because there's a lot, especially on eBay, there's a lot of guys that are selling those processors really, really cheap, but they don't work when you get them.
Now, Richard, after you get the 6209 in, you recommend, of course, putting a socket in.
Right.
Because you don't want to go through that ever again. But I found in cases, either the really, really cheap sockets work well, or the really good ones, the expensive ones, work well. The middle range seem not to be so good, especially if there comes a reason you have to remove the socket because you didn't get a trace fix properly.
Right. Yeah, the one I recommend are what they call the machine sockets, the ones with the round holes in them. They're a little bit pricier, but you're talking about less than $1 difference. So I'd recommend those because those last longer, and you get a better contact on those traces.
Yeah, see, the real cheap ones, it's kind of easy to get the plastic off, so they're back to being individual again, which makes it easier to do. The machine ones are a little bit tougher, but if you got the right cutter, they'll cut easily.
Right.
And then you can remove them. So, yeah, that's the thing I keep telling my friends when they're working on their retro computers. You always have to think about undoing what you just did.
Yeah, and obviously, Richard, you know a lot about soldering. This is what you do. This is what you did back in the day. This is what you do for your real job, and this is what you do for all the things you design and repair and upgrade. So you're coming from a world of lots of experience, and so you're trying to give people some useful advice here on how not to screw things up.
Right. Yeah, as far as repairing Tandy boards, I mean, one of my first jobs was working at Tandy Computer Assembly. It's one of the assembly plants. It was in San Antonio. And I used to component level Model 3 boards and 2 boards. And so as far as I probably have fixed a couple of thousand Tandy Radio Shack boards, component level. So yeah, I have a little bit of experience with these things.
So yeah, I know enough about my lack of soldering skills. I don't even try to solder. So right. I will get a hold of somebody who knows how to do that and kindly ask them for their help.
Yeah. Stevie, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't know how to solder, you're not going to get better unless you do some soldering.
Yeah, if you're an occasional person that solders, I would first practice on a junk board. I would buy one from a thrift store and practice on that before you start on doing on something like on your color computer and things like that.
Somebody mentioned a Commodore's a good starter computer. They're plenty available, and there's lots of them out there.
Yeah, there's lots of them out there, but there's fewer and fewer CoCo, especially CoCo 3s that you can really work on. There's a couple other things I also wanted to address. There was some question about one of the people working on CoCo 3s de-soldering. There were questions about him, and this is Mark Roulette, actually clipping the chips out and de-soldering it that way. That's the way he does that, and there's nothing wrong with clipping the chip out. And if I wasn't repairing boards, would I trust Mark to work on my board? The answer is yes. I don't see anything wrong with clipping the chip out of there. And again, it's not an easy task to desolder these things out and having the chip intact. So just clipping it out doesn't, mean that you don't know what you're doing or you don't have the expertise of doing that. Mark has repaired hundreds of CoCo 3s. He's been around for a very long time. I would absolutely trust him if I needed my CoCo repaired. So I have no question about his expertise as far as working on CoCos or even putting in upgrading a chip.
Well, it's safer too, because if you clip the pins, and I'm speaking like Stevie, like I have no skill in soldering whatsoever, but because you clip it, you can desolder one pin at a time, whereas if you're trying to get the whole chip out, you have to get all 40 pins clean before you can pull the chip out.
Right, yeah. There's less likely that you can still pull a trace if you don't do it right. but it's less likely.
Right, it's very easy for your desolder tool to take the pin out for you, along with the solder, and the problem's gone.
Yeah, and there's two particular pins. I believe it's pin 7 and pin 39. Especially, I think 39 is the ground plane. So when you apply heat to that, what will happen is that heat will dissipate along the ground plane itself. So it doesn't really quite melt the solder. I mean, there's ways you can get the solder melted. You can actually add solder to it before you extract the solder out. But again, there's some skill involved in this.
Right.
And if you do a search of CoCoTALK and 6809, you could actually see me actually taking a chip, upgrading a chip out of there.
Yeah, that's on my YouTube channel. We should be able to find that and post a link to that later on.
Thankfully, there's no videos of me desoldering my hair. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the moral of that story is if you are a person who is reasonably good at soldering, and you haven't done this before, despite what your actual skill level is, this might be something you would suggest somebody who's not really good at doing this to not do it. Right.
I would actually probably take it to somebody that has experience in doing this or does it, on a daily basis. I mean, I'm not trying to just me, but
yeah.
If you're looking for somebody, I think probably some of the best people that you can get are people that repair old video games or arcade games. Those are probably your best people, because they have to solder and unsolder stuff, and they have a multitude of boards that they have to work with. So that's probably your best bet.
Is there anybody in the community that we know who deals with old arcade stuff? Anyone?
Regular basis.
Anyone. Bueller?
I don't know.
Maybe.
He's trying to be really quiet right now on purpose.
It's like, run.
We don't know anybody.
There he is. It's the
There
birthday
he is.
boy. Birthday boy Tom C.
But there's also other people in the CoCo community. I know that Ian Maverick also does it.
Yep, David O'Connor.
David O'Connor.
Paul
Mark
Barton.
Morlett, Paul Barton. Paul Shoemaker. David Ladd could do it. Ed Snyder has done some repairs. These are all people I would trust to repair my CoCo. So. And there's definitely Neil Blanchard also does it out of Canada that I know of.
There you
So
go.
yeah, there's plenty of people out there.
I do this too for my own stuff, but other people's stuff, I don't want to take the responsibility for it.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. I
Go
used
ahead.
to do this, but I don't have a free CoCo motherboard in case I mess something up, so I'm not going to offer to do someone else's until I'm in that position where I have spare parts. I can say, sorry, here's a new one.
Well, not only that, I have the board. It's I have all the equipment, but I also have like the flux, the rosin, the flux remover. I have other desoldering tools. Like I have a manual solder sucker. I have solder wick. There's a lot of ways you can take a chip out.
Richard,
Yes.
can't you put a 6309 on top of a 6809 and switch the power?
I don't recommend piggybacking.
Why?
The only problem is if it breaks, it's almost impossible to take both chips out.
Also, electronically, you're going to change the capacitance on some of the control lines and the resist, and the other levels. It's just electronically, it's not a good thing to do.
Right, you're hanging a CMOS chip on top of an NMOS chip, which is really going to make the CMOS chip confused, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Adding extra load to the lines from that, inactive processor.
Well, see, back in the day, we used to piggyback memory chips, and that wasn't so bad because the chips were identical in technology between NMOS and all the others, but also they were a lot less scale integration as far as what's connected to the pin. In the case of the 6809, there's a lot of circuitry on each one of those pins.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that it can be done, but again, I don't recommend it just on the repair basis. It's just if something goes wrong, it's a nightmare to fix.
All right.
Well, RAM is active all the time, whereas the processors, you got one that's sitting inactive and one that's active.
Mm-hmm.
Cool stuff. Did we beat that topic to death? Have we gotten the message out there?
We'll talk about it probably next month because it's kind of an ongoing debate. So.
Okay. All right.
We can also.
What DEFCON level are we at?
I'm fine. I'm just. We got a lot to cover, and it is a holiday, and I know people want to go out and sacrifice people to the volcanoes and stuff still. So,
That's part of going up 1 or 2, wasn't it?
yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Richard. Thanks for that public service announcement. We're going to take another commercial break, and then we're going to come back with news with L. Curtis Boyle. Is everybody excited for news?
Mikey, you got your pillow ready?
Snoozy newsy time. All right, we'll be back after these words.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Fletcher, I don't need that report tomorrow.
Great, JT.
I need it tonight.
But JT...
Fletcher saved $300 on her office away from the office. Radio Shack's revolutionary Model 100 computer. It's a word processor, phone directory, and dialer. It even communicates with the office computer.
Fletcher, how's that report? Fletcher.
Radio Shack's Model 100. Save $300 and put it to work.
You'll go far, Fletcher. You'll go far.
And now, CoCo Thoughts by Samuel Gimes. On holidays, Uncle JT would entertain us with stories of his business conquests and his assistant who would meet any deadline that he imposed, no matter how ridiculous. Well, until she shot him in the face, that is.
Hi, this is the award-winning Alan Huffman of Subetha Software, and you're watching Stevie Fall Off Cliffs.
What's going on, guys? Stevie Stroh here, and I want to say thank you so much for being part of this adventure with us. It's been such a great experience in doing CoCo Talk every week, and the support we get is just amazing. And so the fact that you watch and listen is all the reward that we need. However, if you would like to become a patron of the show and offer some financial assistance towards the production and hosting costs of the show, we do have a Patreon site available for that, and you can reach that by going to our website at CoCoTALK.live and clicking on the Patreon link. But just do us a favor and watch and listen to the show.
Hey there, I'm Marco Roser, and you're watching CoCo Talk.
This is not the Joey cereal switch. This is the Joey cereal switch. Control up to 3 cereal devices. Order yours today at cocoman.biz.
Radio Shack, America's technology store.
Right! This Christmas, Tandy has a very special offer. A family color computer pack to take away at a very special price. This family computer comes complete with software and costs an incredible $449, a saving of $241.69. It's powerful, educational, and ideal for the young and young at heart. The easy way to start computing. The Color Computer Family Pack from Tandy. Get it while it's hot. Tandy, the biggest electronic store in Australia.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tim. Playing Daggerith like that idiot from the book. You're watching CoCo Talk.
From around the world, what you need to know. Get caught up on News with L. Curtis Boyle.
And now a Muppet News Flash.
All right, and we're here with news with your special foreign correspondent, L. Curtis Boyle. Everybody remember to wake Michael Furman up when the
During
news is
foreign
over.
news. Yeah. I must say, I like that first version of the cereal switch because now I'm hungry. Just remember to share computer sound this time. Hey, you guys seen that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, first up, Tim Halloran. We showed his video last week where he was using USB power to power his CoCo 2, and he has an updated video. And he gets into more detail, and he also kind of made a joke at the beginning, which I'll play in a second here, about the fact that most of us hadn't watched the video beforehand. So I sent him a message. I said I did watch it beforehand, but I don't understand hardware, so that's probably part of the problem. But he mentions that the previous version of it, the USB doesn't supply enough power to power all the peripherals. So like the basic stuff, like the joystick ports worked in the video and the CPU and stuff, but stuff like the cassette port or the serial port would not work. So I won't play the whole thing, but I'll just play the little bit at the beginning because I thought it was kind of amusing. And you guys let me know if the volume's okay.
Still working on power on my CoCo 2. I'll link the video below where I demonstrated using USB power to power most of it, and there was some interest. CoCoTALK even talked about it. There were several questions because I don't think anyone had actually watched the video. The hookup did not work with the whole computer. 5 volts powered like the CoCo SDC, the CPU, but pretty much all of the peripheral ports except for the joystick didn't work. So I've investigated that more in the schematic and have figured out how to, this video talks about how to run the CoCo 2 working entirely, including the bit banger and the cassette port.
And I'll just leave it there, so I'm not going to play the whole thing, but you can watch the rest of the video there. And I believe, Stevie, I think Tim has actually joined us on Discord now.
Yes,
too,
he did. He did. Yep.
So anybody has any further questions or comments on the USB
right,
power
and
project.
and yeah, with the exception of Curtis, who presented the video to us, yeah, a lot of us were seeing this for the first time, so we had not seen the video because we didn't know the video existed at the time you presented to us. But we're glad you did.
And I'm severely underqualified to comment on the hardware-based videos.
But for those who do understand the hardware stuff better, obviously some of those questions started popping into their heads. But yeah. Yeah, and I think
next up, I'll be doing a soldering video to show my skills there.
But no, this is cool that he's doing this. I think in one of his videos, was this the same guy who cleaned the keyboard and used the stuff you guys said don't use that stuff? I don't remember. He did,
that might have been.
Yeah, where he's using some type of mineral oil or something like that to clean the keyboards, and everybody's like, no, don't use that. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, so from what I understand from this guy here, Tim, I guess he's more into the TRS-80 world of things, but now he's getting into the CoCo. So that's pretty cool. And he's on Discord and he's on Facebook. So welcome to the CoCo community, Tim, and welcome to Discord. And yeah, if we can get you on the show some point in time, that'd be great too, so we can hear it firsthand about what you're doing and we can ask you the questions directly.
And clear up any completely wrong information I give. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Very cool. And just so you know, this is not uncommon for USB power adapters to be designed for retro systems. They make them because the original ColecoVision, it had a power brick the size of like 4 real cinder block bricks. I mean, the ColecoVision power brick was insane. And so they do make like a USB 5-volt DC adapter for that. They make USB power pack, and it's not necessarily like you guys were saying last week. It's not necessarily the USB from your computer that only has like the 0.5 amp or 1 amp output, but it's more like the wall chargers for USB. So they make USB power packs for a lot of 8-bit retro systems. Atari 800 has them, ColecoVision has them. So this is not completely uncommon. But in the world of the CoCo, it probably is. This might be a first, right? So kind of understanding.
Yeah, it'd be cool to have like a tablet charger or something that actually is doing a fairly decent voltage and
amperage. But
too.
Wouldn't it be really cool too, where on the back of your CoCo, all you had was like a USB input. You don't need that big ass power supply inside the case. Just put a USB receptacle there, plug it into a wall charger, and then boom, there's your CoCo. That would be kind of cool, you know.
Yep. And it makes it more portable because I mean, you can get USB chargers in your car. And...
Yeah.
But you also remember USB chargers are only 5 volts. And while it's true the design with the multi-pack, you don't need the 12 volts. Peripherals, some of them still need the 12 volts.
Yeah.
So,
like the X-Pad and some of the other stuff. Yeah.
So you're going to need a multi-voltage supply for your multi-pack if you're going to replace it.
Gotcha. But it's a neat idea. So it's going to be interesting to see how this comes along.
Yeah, I'm interested in following to see where it goes from here. Now, I might blur into a screen here because we've got a couple things that I have had in the news that are going to be discussion topics. I'll be saving those for later.
Okay.
And if I accidentally click on one, we'll just skip over it here. So I'm
That's
hoping
fine.
I'm going to get the order right here. Okay, next up, Bill Gerritsen. This is kind of in honor of both the July 1st holiday in Canada and the July 4th holiday in the States. A video of fireworks program. And now I put in the notes that he wrote on the CoCo 1 and 2, but actually he later said that actually was from not from Hot Cocoa itself, but the Hot Cocoa section of 80 Micro after Hot Cocoa, the magazine, collapsed. And they merged it back into 80 Micro, which is actually where it spawned from in the first place. So it's one of those, 87 era ones, but... I have no idea what the volume is going to be like on this one, so I'll turn down a little bit because it does have some explosion sounds.
Cool.
Can you guys hear that?
Yeah. Fireworks simulator. Generate random data. Enter string data. Number of events. 300 events. Wow. Intensity. Ooh. Intensity of 32. Perform.
That's way more than 11.
Choo, choo.
You guys hearing the popping sounds?
Yeah. That's pretty cool. This is surprisingly good. I wasn't sure what to expect.
That was really good.
Yeah.
I think even if he flashes the screen white so you get that blink of the initial explosion type thing. So. He's got different types, the ones that shoot this, just streamers, and then nice use of the artifact colors, of course. Wouldn't quite have looked as good as PAL, but I mean, PAL's in those foreign countries anyway. So
yeah.
But I know there's some in both Canada and the States. There's been some restrictions on fireworks this year in particular because of the pandemic. So this is a way to get around it. Just put it up on a projection screen TV and go for it.
I like that. That's
it's
really
like
neat.
the Yule log that you watch on the
video.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. Because everybody nowadays, when you go to fireworks, everybody's recording them on their phone. And then it's usually like on July 5th, you see all these memes that say, hey, let's look at the firework footage I caught on my phone last year, said no person ever. Right? So
I just saw a meme that said, nobody's going to look at your cell phone video of fireworks.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you think about it, how many, who's ever replayed any fireworks video they've ever taken? So
And the worst thing is if you do record it like that, then you're missing most of the fireworks out of the peripheral vision because you're busy watching your stupid screen there. So you lose the whole effect of the thing. Yeah,
oh my goodness. That's
agree.
Impressively good though. I have not seen a fireworks demo on an 8-bit system that simulated the whole fallout and all that kind of stuff. That's really cool.
I've only seen one other one, and that's at is it Crystal City or Xenix that has it as their
okay scene. Okay, but
as a CoCo 3 one, that's actually quite impressive. But on the CoCo 1 and 2, by far, that is the best.
Yeah, and the little cracking noises. It's cool.
So thank you, Bill, for posting that up. I'm Ron DeVoe. I believe you'd asked him about seeing if he can actually post the program disk image itself, because I don't think that's one that's on the archive. So hopefully he posted it somewhere, so the rest of us can share it too.
Very nice.
He says he couldn't for some reason.
Okay.
Well, if it's a technical detail, maybe we can help him do it, because I would like to get that program without having to type the whole darn thing in.
He said he signed his rights away to it, but I mean, is anybody enforcing that on Hot Cocoa?
On Hot Cocoa?
Well, Hot Cocoa was owned by Wayne Green, and Wayne Green's long gone, so I don't think there's any issue there.
By the power invested into me from Lord Nick Marotta, I hereby undulate onto thee the proper forthwith ability to propagate and distribute said content legally and guilt-free. Therefore, till death do you part. Amen.
That takes care of the ghost of Wayne Green.
No, Stevie's taking the burden.
Yeah. Send all lawsuits to Stevie.
I can't find in Google.
Not valid in all 50 states.
Price participation may vary. Tax, tag, and title not included.
And this one here, this is part of what Robert was, we're talking about early on the discussion of soldering, desoldering. Now, this wasn't the actual discussion article itself that was about this, but this is talking about the Haco desoldering vacuum. And you hardware guys, or Richard, sorry, you guys can explain exactly what the Haco desoldering vacuum is. But Joey seems pretty happy with it, and some other people had mentioned it's a pretty decent quality one. Richard, I don't know if you can speak to that. Is that a good quality desoldering thing?
Yeah, it is. It costs a couple $100. I use a different one because I'm not a big fan of that pistol grip. That's the only bad thing about it.
It is a big, bulky thing to weave around inside of a circuit board.
Is it meant for more larger size board?
Well, imagine going down a 40-pin chip with that thing. You're going to get pretty tired.
Yeah.
I use a similar device, but the pump is in a box on the desk, so the pistol grip itself is 3 ounces or something.
Not heavy, yeah.
And yeah, I find that a lot easier. These things just wear you out. You can't aim anymore. You start getting shaky, It's
okay.
It's just
So you could view it as a way of getting an exercise program as well, then, right? So curls with either hand.
Arms, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I like about the Pace one. It's a pencil type. It's much easier to hold.
I remember when you're holding your soldering iron, if you start to smell chicken, you're doing it wrong.
Right?
Or burnt hair.
Reverse.
Smells like chicken. You're doing it wrong.
This next one here is from Krista Mayu, who we have had on the show as a guest before because
Reverend
of the educational
Fuzzy.
videos. Yep, that is the guy. So he dug out an old newspaper report from September of 1990 talking about CoCo user groups and the fact that there was a couple started in the area that he lived, and there's a picture of him on the left there, actually showing a music program. But they ended up discussing how these user groups, like, some of them had a fair number of users and some didn't get quite as popular. So the user groups actually worked together to do membership drives for the smaller clubs. And apparently it was a huge success. And they ended up, between them all, they ended up with several hundred users from, supporting each other. And I thought that was a really cool story because I know here, our user groups for the CoCo were pretty spread out because our cities are fairly spread out, like it's a 3-hour drive to the next city type thing. And it sounds like they were much more closer knit, but they actually started sharing, renting malls and stuff to promote the CoCo and promote the clubs and sharing it between the user groups. So if somebody drove into the bigger city, but they had a smaller club existent in a smaller one, they would actually be there to tell the people that were in the big city mall to, you have a local CoCo club, in your own area if you want to try it too. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing. And we didn't do that here. I don't know if you guys experienced that in any of your special interest groups or CoCo clubs back in the day.
No, I don't remember any kind of drives to drive up membership, even for our own group. It was just, you got what you got.
Is that an AMDEC monitor?
I have no idea.
I really don't remember. I was just too young when we went to the Silicon Valley color computer club. But I remember going there at Dyson headquarters in Santa Clara, California.
Neat.
Okay. Yeah, because here, our club had about 60 or 70 people at its peak, I think, for a population of 150,000 people in our city. I mean, the ones in Edmonton and Calgary were much larger. The one that mentioned here that Christopher mentions, who was the president of one of the groups at the time, they had, I think, about 50, 60 members themselves. They had this small town near them and only had 15. Then they did a membership drive and they had over 200 people come to this mall display and express interest in joining.
Wow.
And I know we did a couple mall things here too. We did one at an art gallery. That didn't go too well because the art gallery patron people are not the same type of people that, screw around with tech, especially back then. But the ones we did in the mall, we actually we gained a couple dozen members, I think, too. And we had a big group one. We had the Commodore people, we had the Atari people, we had the CoCo TRS-80 people. Of course, we arranged it to be right in front of the Radio Shack store so people could just go run over and check it out right away and buy it. So Radio Shack was happy about it. They were loaning us extra equipment too. So, but that one was quite successful. So,
manager saw a marketing opportunity.
Yep. They actually lent us some software because they had some new software that had just come out that we hadn't even seen yet. We kind of pirated it, I guess, but we were demonstrating it off, and we borrowed some of their speakers because I remember Bill brought his Symphony 12 there, so we had somebody on the Atari ST, I think, had some big MIDI thing cranked through a couple of speakers. So Radio Shack lent us bigger speakers, and then Bill pumped it into a Symphony 12 and just cranked it until we got complaints from the other mall businesses around. But Yeah, those, I kind of miss those days. It's kind of like having a CoCo Fest, but
In a mall.
locally.
Yeah. By any chance, was Tiffany singing "I Think We're Alone Now" while you guys were there?
Not that I remember. Nope.
Okay. All right.
Okay, next up, CoCo Crew episode 61 came out. And this one here, I think Neil was talking about Evan Wright's cartridge. So there's a review of his new game, the port of the Sinclair ZX81 game, or ZX81, depending on where you're from.
Zed. We all say Zed.
Because it was produced in England, I got to pronounce it the proper way.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has a pretty interesting discussion with Paul Fiscarelli and Simon Jonason, who, of course, collaborated on the Run Dino Run, of a new sound routine that Simon's working on using ADPCM technology, which is adaptive pulse-code modulation, which is basically a way of doing samples. Like most sound samples, if you take a look at them at the data level, they don't usually jump all over the place. It's usually just goes up a little bit or goes down a little bit as far as the bytes that you're reading in the sequence to jam out to the DAC. So what he's doing is something that the Windows ATPCM format in WAV does, which is basically it does a smaller number of bits and just tells it go up by a little bit or go down by a little bit. So in his case, he's doing, I think, -7 to +7, and then he has a special value to get out of the, saying the sample's done. So they have a long technical discussion on how all that works and the fact that you're basically compressing samples now to 4 bits each instead of 6. So it cuts your memory requirements down. And there's a little bit of a story a little bit later on because he actually just posted a video of a new demo he's working on that actually is demonstrating this ADPCM technique and what the sound samples, and this is actual digitized samples. This isn't just synthesizing waveforms for music per se. This is actual digitized samples. You can use it for sound effects as well as music and whatever else. So that was a pretty interesting discussion too. So that one, I think, if you're technically minded or into the music and sound parts of the CoCo, would be an interesting interview to listen to.
From the mad mind of the madman.
Yep. Next up, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Near Dairy, something like that. But anyway, in the Dragon group, he's actually there's an upgrade board from John Whitworth, I believe his name is, and it's a little plug-in thing that actually allows you to create your own ROM mask for your character set, which the VDG supports an external ROM chip. That's how the lower kits used to work by Dennis Kitts, etc. So he's actually working on doing one in Hebrew, and if you can see in the middle of the screen here, let's zoom this up a bit. He's got the original font on the top and then the alternate font on the middle there, and you can see some of the Hebrew characters. So that's kind of an interesting take on it.
How do you switch?
CoCo VJ.
How do you switch?
Oh, that
Hebrew
first...
reads from left to right.
Right to left.
Yeah, but this doesn't. But at least from what I remember, those
Keith Robinson has a comment on that. He says if you use inverting address buffers in A0 to A4, you will automatically get right to left character sequences. So it sounds like a little circuit will actually do that if you want to do it in hardware. But yeah, by default, the VDG doesn't do that. You're right. And Ron, what was your question?
No question.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering how he made the switch here because it's not like he's running any software to bring it up. So is there a toggle switch?
It's like the poke to do lowercase on the newer 6847.
Yeah, I just don't see any pokes taking place in this screenshot here. So unless this has been spliced together, he goes from normal font to this font with no... Okay.
Well, you might have it set up to be default.
Yeah, that's not that important. Just more of a curiosity.
Or he's patched his basic or something, just you hit Shift 0 instead of getting inverse video. Maybe you get Hebrew or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, that might be. Okay.
I mean, it's an interesting thing. I know the lower kits by Dennis Kitts, like he sold the expanded characters that were wider and taller, so they look better and true lowercase. And sometimes they'd add certain extra fancy characters for games. And the CoCo VJ's kind of taken that ball and run with it because now you can just load them on the fly. And Stevie, you've experimented with that, so it's along the same lines.
Neat. I like it though.
Yeah, the NEC Trek used a external font for it.
Oh, okay. And that used the VDG as well?
Yep, but they also had kanji and katakana chips so that they could actually display Japanese.
Yeah, because it was actually more popular in Japan as the PC 6001.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's the ones that High Retro Game Lord was just recently doing all the game videos for on YouTube. Next up, David F. Gisbert in the Dragon Group as well actually put this up. This was an auction, and I can't remember what country code is ES.
Spain.
Spain? Okay.
Yeah, España.
So this is, and Spain, of course, took over the Dragon production after Dragon Dead in the UK shut down and got the rights to it. So this is a version of the Dragon 32 that had built-in RGB output from the factory. This is not a hacked add-on or anything else. This was an official release.
Wow.
Most people, including the UK, hadn't even heard of that before. And I think he has a picture somewhere. Yes, documentation. So the documentation right from Dragon itself said, and if you translate, socket for the monitor to connect the monitor and RGB color to. And apparently it's very nice. But the circuit board is redesigned enough that apparently it's not an easy hack on. There's some external stuff that people have done otherwise, but this is actually right on the circuit board.
David's actually from Spain.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, CCAM was...
Paris Rat is too, isn't he?
I think so, yeah. The CCAM was that French? That was the French version of NTSC or whatever?
Yeah, French and Russian.
Yeah.
So obviously the circuit board design was modified a bit for that market, and then they actually got true RGB built right in, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, some of the people that have had issues getting certain NTSC or versus PAL frequencies and stuff, this might be a third alternative if you can find one that you can just plug straight into an analog RGB monitor.
So CoCo 1 and 2 never had RGB ever, did they?
Not without hacked on add-on boards and stuff. No. I mean, the VDGs, I think, if I remember, you guys, hardware guys, can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe it had built-in composite that if you tapped right off some of the pins, you could actually get the composite directly out, couldn't you?
Sounds right. Something to do with the 1372? Mr. Davis.
Yeah, that's correct. It's actually the schematic for getting composite videos in the data sheet. So instead of having the 1372 chip, you don't really need that one. You just replace it with a diode, and then you can get video straight out of it.
Okay. But yeah, as far as RGB goes, I don't know if there was ever an official RGB. Well, I know pretty sure there wasn't an official one, but I don't think there was too many RGB anythings for CoCo 1 and 2s anyway.
I think the VDG chip just shoved it out. Phase color.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it has just the those three signals that they're similar to what's used on the original HD TVs that had the separate inputs.
Okay.
I think it's a small mod just to get it to output that.
Yeah, Dave in the chat is saying, he said you need the 1372 for a color composite.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and then the last one for the regular news here is the video I was talking about before from the CoCo crew discussion on ADPCM, where Simon has actually put up a brief video with sound.
Let's hear it.
Zoom that up. It's not very long, and he said he's not releasing source on this until he's done.
Don't be scared.
That's cool. A lot of bass.
Yeah.
All about that bass.
Now, the nice thing is there, I mean, we've seen demos, like I've even played the full CoCoTALK theme and stuff, but the thing is there, because he's actually writing this stuff to run under disk basic, he's got very small disk space to work with. So using this new compression technique, well, not new, but new to the CoCo at this point, of compressing the samples down from what it would normally take and getting the quality pretty well just to what is good. He's actually playing, I think he said at 11 kilohertz, which is faster than most of our samples usually do. If you want background stuff happening at the same time, but it's also fitting onto a 160K or 153K disc. The program, the graphics itself, and the sound samples. So you can do some pretty cool stuff with that.
Yeah, that's neat. And part of that because of some of the tools that Paul Fiscarelli was working on that help him pass that data.
Paul, if you listen to the CoCo crew interview with them, they've actually got some tools where you can literally drag a sound sample into it, I think, if I remember correctly, and it'll actually create all the FCB statements. So you can embed the actual sound right into your code.
Yeah.
In 80 PCM 4-bit format.
Yeah. I mean, and luckily for us, because we're on Discord a lot and Paul's on too, we've seen some of this before. So, and Paul has shown us some sneak peeks of some of these tools. But not everybody in the world has seen or heard or known about that. So it's good that the word's now getting out officially about all of this. And I think I'm not speaking out of place here, but I think the big picture is short term, the tools are really helping people like Paul Thayer get games done. But long term, these tools are going to be for everybody in the community to use. So if you want to build, they're working on sprite compilers. I remember him showing us that, and these wave converters and all these things. So all these tools that Paulie Walnuts Fiscarelli's working on to help Paul Thayer and Simon Jonasson work on these games that they're doing, we're all going to benefit from that in the end when they become public. So it's very cool stuff. We've got some brilliant people. I've said this a million times. Fantastic people, incredible community, doing amazing things. Color Computer, greatest computer. Always said it's a fantastic computer. So yeah, cool stuff. So neat. Thank you, Curtis. Was that the end of the news?
Yeah, I had a couple more stories, but because they've become discussion
They're going to
topics,
become discussions, yeah. And all right, so how about let's keep it rolling. Let's just roll on into game news, and we'll do that.
Let me just get things switched around here. I'm just going to clear off some of these other windows when I bring it back for the discussion. I don't keep clicking on the wrong stuff.
Yeah, because I got steaks I need to grill tonight, so we can't be doing this crap show all freaking day, all right?
Yeah. I got to take off it a little bit, too.
I got ribs cooking, man.
Oh, that sounds good, Ronnie. What's
I'm
that?
sure Michael will be here because he's still asleep from the news segment, so he'll be here a while.
And my mom's making tater salad.
Tater? What kind of tater am I, Ron?
Oh, we can tell you.
Dick.
You guys are bad.
Stevie looks all jovial on air, but we can tell you stories.
Oh, that's
okay.
Nah, he's a good guy.
Is this the right window here? I got too much stuff open.
Yeah, we'll just wait around, Curtis. Take your time.
Nobody's
got anything to do.
I mean, it's not like it's a big holiday for you.
Evan Wright,
traitorous colonists and stuff.
Evan Wright says I have to clean the fire extinguisher residue off my grill today. I also need a new fire extinguisher. Note to self.
Any of you guys knocking down some
alcohol?
No.
Oh.
Statues.
Oh, no. Not lately. No. Matter of fact, if I may be so bold, I've recently erected a statue of David Ladd. And I said erect. Okay, so we're going on to gaming news at this point.
Do you have to put a cape over its head so it doesn't blind the pilots as they drive by, fly by, cause a hazard? I imagine the gleam off, that would be almost as bad as a laser pointer right in the eyes.
Touchdown, Usborne computer game.
Yeah, so this is, of course, our weekly Jim Gary segment. So he's got a video of his MC10 port. Let's volume this probably too high. I can't remember if he's got this little, awesome digitized MC10 sound going or not. So basically, this is MC10 port of the game Touchdown, which is kind of a
Lunar Lander.
Junior Lunar Lander type thing, based on the computer book Space Games published by Osborne. And so he does a demonstration of this one here playing. And apparently it's very fussy on landing because he crashes 5 times in a row.
Well, he wrote the damn thing. You couldn't think you could wrote it.
Well, he ported it. He didn't write it. Remember, so. That's totally different.
Most of the ones I tried playing were horribly sensitive.
Yeah, it's Usborne with a U, not an O.
Yeah, all dead. That's pretty well. How it plays. I'll fast forward here because I think he actually did land the last one correctly.
Well, he just landed the first one.
Well, in pieces, yeah. If the screen goes red and it says you're all dead, then it's usually not a good landing.
Oh, I thought it was good.
And it randomizes the bottom a little bit too. It draws some random gibberish
Yeah.
and then it draws a flat area to land on. But you have to have your velocity like extremely low to land. And there
Okay,
he actually
safe.
did it.
All right.
Congratulations, Jim.
All right, good, Jim Gary. From Usborne, computer game, touchdown.
Yeah, I think he meant
So
Osborne with an
this
O,
is not a football game then.
No.
No, it's with the U.
Usborne, with a U.
I have the link for the free books also. I'll post it.
Usborne. Ooh,
As-
look at that. Look
As
at
Nick
that.
Marotta was talking about earlier, Neil has started shipping the cartridge versions of Bomb Threat. I know several people have gotten them. I just happened to pick one here from Wayne Aaron.
Very
Showing his
nice.
received package. I know Al Hartman, I don't know if he's received his yet, but I know he's ordered it. And there's a few others I think have actually posted pictures of receiving it. So it's shipping just in time to take part in the GameON challenge. And how long is it now, Nick?
3 weeks.
It's in 3 weeks, and people have been receiving their cartridges in under a week, so there's still plenty of time.
And is that on both sides of the border too?
I know in the U.S.
Yeah, I got mine in about a
people
week. I ordered mine last week and I got it yesterday.
Oh, maybe all the shipping issues we were having between the two countries has actually started to tone down
Yeah.
then.
I think he's
Good.
using UPS instead of the USPS, so that could be why too.
Oh, okay.
They
It's
were
actually
faster.
courier shipping them. Does that cost more than for him? I wonder to ship.
It was
compared to-
$10. I got 2 cartridges delivered, $10, which wasn't bad.
Okay. Hey, next up. Lee Perkins has been converting a PC game, and the name of it escapes me at the moment. So I think we showed this last week, but the top picture here is the actual PC version of it, the MS-DOS game.
Uh-huh.
And then this was his very first conversion of just raw converting the graphics without setting up palettes. So he added a video here this week, and he's got 2 versions. The first one's really slow, so I'm not going to play that one. But he actually fixes the palette up, and now he's got this one here, which actually is faster, and it kind of shows you loading up the game actually on the CoCo 3 itself.
I think he said he used
The game screen, I should say,
Used
not
like
the game,
eight.
this-
He did in 8K chunks or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Is it playing? Have you hit play? I'm not sure.
Yep.
It doesn't look like it's moving. It's frozen for us.
Oh, is this that stupid thing when you maximize? Sometimes it.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see it now?
You can see it now.
The little
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, it'll have to be small then. That's
what she said. All right. So yeah, boom. Screen is clear. Yeah, it's loading pretty quickly. So he loaded the entire screen. Now, does he do hardware scrolling on it, or is that just showing that he's got
No,
the
that's just
data?
to show the screen
Okay.
conversion from the DOS version.
Okay. Yeah, it looks
And
almost
just as a point
identical.
of reference, this is what it used to load like.
Yeah, slower. Yeah, like a line at a time. Yeah, it looks like it's like it's.
If I wanted
like
to be a
it's-
cruel bastard, I would just have played that one and let you guys
Yeah,
sit through it. But
yeah,
I
it looks
didn't.
like it's doing a bite
Yeah,
at a
'cause
time. Yeah.
I'm being nice because it's a holiday.
We're downloading it at 0.3 baud.
Now this next one, this one just showed up recently too. I think it was either last night or today, and this one actually has me pretty excited because it's pretty cool. Paris Serrata, of course, is famous for doing the AGD ports from the Spectrum, and he's had that out now. It's over 200 games converted, and he's been working on the WordPack 2 Plus version. And last time we played one of the samples, it was showing the new graphics, but the sound was still using basically the same 6-bit DAC sound that we've had for years and years. So now he's actually using the sound chip, the AY chip in it. So this video is going to show the new enhanced graphics from, I think it's a TI chip or something. I can't remember anymore. And then he's got the new sound chip enabled now with both sound effects and music.
Ooh, now how much would you pay? But wait.
So are you guys seeing that?
Yeah, we see it. Yeah.
And this one, it's only 56 seconds, so I'll just play the whole darn thing.
Play the whole darn thing. Maybe slow it down so we can enjoy it. Ooh. Man, that animation's good. It looks like Pickle Rick. Look at him. Diamond Geezer, huh? You gotta look out for the skull. Oh my god, this opens up a whole world of gaming on the Color computer and Dragon.
Yeah, because this is a CoCo 1 and 2 level machine.
This
here.
is this is actual real Colors.
And that one cartridge, the WordPack 2 Plus, actually has the sound chip and the new graphics chip.
Yep, I want
all
one of
in
those
there. So it's a
cartridges.
one-shot deal, and you just plug it in and go.
Diamond Geezer. Yeah, the animation is really good on this guy. Look
And
out
of
for
course,
that
no
skull.
CPU loss. Doing full music in the background and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
If only the CoCo had a sprite chip and a sound chip, and hold my beer. Here it is. We got graphics, we got sprites, we got colors, we got sound.
So now I think this cartridge is seriously starting to show itself as being a competitor to the CoCo VJ in some ways. Now, obviously, because one's a cartridge and one's an internal, you technically could have both.
Yes.
In the same system at the same time. So if you wanted to write something for like the higher graphics modes on the VGA and the replaceable character sets, you could. Or you could plug this in and then you have your own, sound and sound effects plus better graphics.
And obviously this must have its own output, so probably composite out on this.
I believe so, yeah.
And is it monaural out or is it stereo out?
I believe it's mono.
Okay. Now 2 more questions. Number 1, does it include a real-time clock?
No, I mean this is the one bit disappointing thing. That none of these things come with real-time clocks.
What about blinky lights? Are there any blinky lights on this?
I think you could program them in now.
Okay, very good.
Those are all features for WordPack 3.
WordPack 3. All right, very cool. So yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? You everybody says the 6809 is a great CPU, and of course, then we have to deal with the fact that we don't have sprites, we don't have colors. We gotta invent the wheel with graphics engines. But here it is. You got all the chips. You got the sound chip, the graphics chip. Now let the 6809 do some awesome stuff, right? So,
yeah.
Man,
I mean, these are AGD games. These are not top tier games that you could do with this new hardware.
Right, but still, they look great. It looks and sounds like a real freaking game.
Yep. Yeah, and basically, like if you actually pushed it, like if you did your 3-voice music, plus you use the channel for sound effects, plus you use these higher graphics modes, and you got all this extra support on the hardware doing this stuff in the background for you, you could make some arcade games that you couldn't even imagine, except maybe on a CoCo 3 at this point.
All right.
As far as speed goes, I mean, CoCo 3 has some extra CPU speed, which helps, and you've got better timer interrupts to do background sound and stuff. But even that does take a lot of time, so you're still limited.
Oh, we have a very important question from Jason the CoCo Man. He wants to know: does it have a toggle switch at all on this WordPack?
What are we toggling there, Jason?
WordPack 3.
WordPack 3. Okay, so that'll be on there.
On versus off, obviously.
And now this next one, I will let Robert Allen Murphy talk about because it's his blog.
Okay.
So I will keep it on screen. If you want me to scroll or anything, just let me know.
Well, okay. So I posted up another update about the game that I'm porting from the NEC PC 6000. It's an alien movie-based survival horror game. And the left screenshot there is from the actual game. And then on the right is one attempt at making it into SG4. So this last month, I spent a lot of time in a bunch of different grab bag parts of working on the game itself. So I got some initial early success, I guess, on getting an RG6 screen, or what they call P Mode 4 screen, up and running. And I got a gimme screen up and running. So I started trying to, see if I could do something real. And of course, no. I spent the rest of the month beating my head against all kinds of different shortcomings in my original code. So I ended up doing a lot of code cleanup. And I also spent the month working on the next big component chunk of it, which is audio. And good gravy, there are so many audio options for the color computer. Going back to the original 1980, one of the things I was interested in was figuring out how 1-bit audio worked. So I spent some time doing that. And then I started going through all the different audio cards and looking at how to get music and sound effects from the original game converted over. And along the way, ran into a whole lot of interesting stuff. So I'm trying to collect those up as separate articles and post those elsewhere as I get it organized. But it looks like, and some of the folks I've talked with, it looks like there might be a way to come up with like a note table driven way to have multiple audio drivers that all can be triggered individually using the same high level note data. So the original game was programmed for something like the CoCo PSG or the Speech Sound Pack sound chip, which is the General Instruments AY38910. And I was able to get the Speech Sound Pack somehow to generate the same game noises that came out of the original NEC game. So I was kind of happy about that. And I realized how horrible the Speech Sound Pack is to program. So I have nothing but respect for folks like Steve Bjork and the folks back in the day that managed to get that thing to do anything in the middle of actually trying to run a game. But it was kind of cool to hear the original game audio, because I don't have the actual NEC machine. I'm working specifically from emulators. But it was cool to hear the original game audio, but coming out of a CoCo-based machine rather than the original thing. So there's a whole lot more to do on the audio side. There's a whole lot more to do on the graphics side. And this coming month, I'm looking at going ahead and making it interactive. So I've been able to bring up screens and I've been able to make sounds, but now it needs to start bringing together into a loop. And I'm already having after some initial difficulties, I'm finally having some success doing that. So yeah, part of this blog, the idea is to show that, it's a lot of blogs today on the web are more like, here's what we got done, and it's all promotional, and you don't hear about any of the bad stuff. But one of the things I've seen from the CoCo community blogs and the CoCo community development is more of the real, this is how bad it can be sometimes, and here's what you can do to power through. And so that's what I'm trying to show as well with mine, is that you do keep making progress if you just keep coming back to it. And there can be all kinds of missteps, but even the missteps can have value later in that you've learned something, you've acquired a skill, and then you might not be using it in your current project, but you can at least document it for others to learn from, or you can build it in a way that you might be using it later. So I'm trying to throw that into this as well. So that's what this month was just a lot of different little blocks.
Yeah, and I mean, Nick Morendis has done that too, because he's gone through where he's gone down one direction for a game, and you'll see updates for 3 or 4 blog posts, and then all of a sudden he finds out this isn't going to work. And he backtracks and
part
goes
of the
down
process. And people get with basic, one of the things I found is it's very easy to just you knock something together, you debug on it for a bit, but you're able to get something fairly rapidly. That assembly, on the other hand, you'll have to learn patience. That sometimes it just takes a while before you even get some little tiny drip of progress. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to show as well. And some of the feedback that I've gotten privately about these particular posts have, hopefully I'm getting that out there, and people seem to have appreciated it. So
yeah,
but like anything else, if you do bother to read through all this, there's a lot of walls of words there. I do try to put pictures up so that it's not just 100% text. But if you do have questions or whatever, I'm on the Discord. There's other ways you can get a hold of me through the site as well. So yeah, there was me playing with what the original cover looked like versus trying to get it working with Color Max Deluxe, which is very cool. I'll probably be using that in the final. There it is on my actual CoCo 3 showing.
That looks cool.
Yeah, you've changed palettes a little bit there, so.
Well, that's the palette that MGE that particular tool uses by default. The original file has the full palette in it. I just got to write the decoder and put that up myself. I was using a downloadable tool to just say, oh, yep, here's the file, and now it can be displayed. So.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool project, and you're actually making it so it's going to have CoCo 3 modes, CoCo 1 and 2 modes, so no matter what machine you have, you can play it, and then you get enhancements on the CoCo 3.
All part of the learning.
Yeah. And like I said, Nick's been really good about doing that. I think he's one of the first CoCo game developers that actually started doing these blogs way back. And we've even seen Nick start off and do 10 blog posts over a couple months and then totally abandon the game entirely because he just decided, it's going to take too much RAM, and I want to keep it in the 512K and under market so that it can be sold to enough people to warrant all the time. Like his big Zaxxon style game that he did. I can't remember the name of it. If Nick's still on, he can probably allude to it somewhat. I'm hoping he'll actually might get back to that someday, because now that 2 meg is so common from people from Boysen Tech and Mark, and the fact that we're pushing it like crazy on Nitrous 9 too, because it just makes things so much faster and easier, that maybe he'll get back to that. I think the market's big enough to warrant it now. That'd be really cool to see the first 2 meg game.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I chose this particular game to try doing as a CoCo assembly thing, is that the original game itself is fairly simple and straightforward. It's a 6847 text-based game. It's just using that custom font capability that the NEC had on top of a chip that we're familiar with. So you can see there's little Japanese characters next to the time code, things like that. And I've recreated those on the CoCo 3 just like that. So that's kind of fun as well. But the game itself is not so huge that someone with my complete lack of skill has no chance of ever managing to finish this. I think it's within my grasp if I just keep at it.
And the fact that you mentioned this is actually a VDG chip just with the remapped font and stuff means this would also be a perfect project for the CoCo VGA where you could duplicate the font literally.
And when I get one, which is in the ordering phase right now, I'm waiting for there's more being built. But yeah, that's my plan. Is I'm going to put the VGA in my CoCo 2 and actually just put the font right on it and take back all that time that I'm having to spend drawing a high-res screen. And P Mode 4 is not that bad to draw on, but if you could have the hardware doing it for you, it suddenly gets a whole lot more like programming a 6502 on a C64. You just basically are a high-level director, and you have all the hardware doing all the hard work.
Yeah, because basically, like all these little graphic shapes, you have to draw like 8 to 12 lines of pixels to draw one on a P Mode 4, where it's just one character. That's all you got to do on the.
Yeah, and I'm doing it as 8x12 tiles, just like the CoCo VGA would be doing in hardware with a hardware counter clock and directly reading the memory. I'm having to transfer it all through the CPU.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's cool. Keep us posted on that. Go ahead.
Yes, it looks neat.
And that's it for the GameON news.
All right. Fantabulous. Fan-frickin-tastic.
Thank you. Yes, you're too kind. Thank you.
All right. So how about we take a commercial break? Then we're going to come back, and we have another panel discussion that came up on
time to wake up.
Facebook this week about what software systems did you use regularly back in the day. So maybe we'll talk about that after the break. So we'll be back. Thank you, Curtis, for all the news. So we'll be back.
We will return after these messages.
CoCoTALK is brought to you in part by Placeblex Dietary Supplement. Placeblex. We think it works, so will you.
It's a Radio Shack Merry Christmas.
Oh, I remember that Christmas. Dad gave me my first shortwave radio from Radio Shack. What memories. This Christmas, we got our son's Color Computer 3 from Radio Shack. It hooks right up to our TV and was on sale for less than $130. The Color Computer 3 makes learning fun. Jimmy even lets me use it for word process when he isn't playing computer games. Lucky I still got my shortwave.
Save $70 on the sale-priced Color Computer 3, only at Radio Shack.
Hey, this is Bruce Moore, author of Force of Doom, and you're watching the original gamer, Stevie Stroke.
Only the bravest souls enter. Only the most cunning return. Defeat innumerable monsters to ransom the king's scepter, stolen by the evil wizard. Your sword, shield, and wits are your only allies. Pray you find a magical inn as your only respite in the forest of doom.
For the tiny color computer 1, 2, and 3.
November 2017. If you dare.
This is Ken Reichard, author of Nightmare Highway.
Nightmare Highway.
And you're experiencing CoCo Talk? Just when you thought it was safe to go back to CoCo Fest.
Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway.
CoCo Fest Edition? Still low resolution, still digital to analog converted sound. More machine language. And basic.
Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway.
Now includes the power of Terry to clear the road ahead.
Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway.
Available as a DVD-ROM with all my past games as an alleged bonus, including my unreleased 4th Rainbow Adventure Contest entry. Unreleased for a reason.
Nightmare Highway. Nightmare Highway.
Get your physical or digital copy at cancanmakeit.com. Now you've really paid too much.
Nick marionettes on electricity.
Crikey! Electricity's a fad. The biggest market is just open flame.
Brought to you by Nitrous 9, Ease of Use Edition. Hashtag OS9 Forever.
And we're back. And during the break, we were joined by the madman himself, Simon Jonason. And I don't know if you caught it, Simon, we were showing off your sample routine video that you just posted recently. Sounds wicked, mate.
I didn't see it. I didn't catch it in time.
Ah, the low end on that came through really clear, too, man. It had some really bumping bass in there. Boom, dong, 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 dong. Yeah, I was really digging that.
So, but it's a work in progress because I'm gonna put something on top of that. I'm gonna amaze you even more.
Ah, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, but wait, there's more.
All right. Yeah.
Is this year's official demo for the CoCo 3 then,
or? No, that's just a COVID thing. It's just get my head out of shit.
Very cool. You and Paul doing some amazing work, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
Are you pressed for time? Are you gonna be able to hang out for a little bit?
Me? Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. All right, cool. So we were maybe you can join us too, because what was the discussion, Curtis, on what did you use regularly back in the day? Is that what the...
Yeah, I mean, the discussion originally started out as to, like, one of the people there, Jim McClellan on Facebook, had actually picked up a DMP 105 that works. And he was wondering what's an acceptable word processor for the CoCo 3, and also was there any decent print shop type programs? And then people started doing CoCo 1.2 suggestions, and then there was also some discussions on, well, speaking of serious software, what other software did you use back in the day in the CoCo regularly? Some musicians might have used, Musica or Lyra or Ultimuse or something like that. So it's just like wondering what did stuff use. People also talk about using Deskmate and other things too. And I think this was also the CoCo crew had a section on that as well. So, what software did you use back in the day to be productive on your CoCo as opposed to just playing the games? And I thought that was a pretty interesting concept of merging all those talks together into best word processor, best desktop publishing, and also just generally serious apps. What did people use back in the day?
I have a short answer. I never did nor never will do anything serious on my CoCo. Next. What does that
What are you
say?
holding up there, Rick?
Dynastar. You're muted, Rick. We can't hear you, Rick. You're muted. Your lips move.
Yeah, this is when I click the button, I can say I had Dynastar, Dynaform, and Dynaspell. So everything Connect ever did in manuals, every column I ever wrote for 68 micros, all that stuff on a CoCo using Frank Hogg's $150 for a CoCo program.
That's expensive.
But hey, it worked. Well, then I got Sculptor, and that was like $450. So
wow,
Sculptor was huge. That was a relational database that was cross-platform, right up to 32-bit systems. That was a huge.
They said SQL, but it wasn't really. But yeah, I loved writing forms in that. It worked out really well. But mainly Dynastar. It's a very good. You can run it over the serial port, and it works right. And yeah.
Yeah, because you could run on 80-column terminals if you had them plugged in and stuff too. Yeah. Was it based on WordStar? I'm trying to remember. Is that one or was it ScreenStar by Computer? One of them was a WordStar clone.
It isn't a WordStar clone, so it must be the other way around. But anyway, I lost my track.
Alexander Wallace says he used Max 10 and CoCo Max 3 on a Rainbow Star Micronics. That was a color dot matrix printer, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was a 3-color ribbon dot matrix, if I remember, 24 pin, if I remember correctly.
Alexander Wallace is also mentioning Dynastar 128. So I'm not familiar.
Yep.
I had no interest in word processing back in the day, honestly. I did very little utility
So when you
type
were in
stuff.
high school, Stevie, and you were doing like book reports and all that kind of stuff, what did you use?
Probably wrote them out. Notebook paper. Yeah.
You Luddite.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was word processing on your essays was one of the cool things to do.
I never owned a printer.
I used Telewriter
Impressed
64.
people back then.
Yeah. I never owned a printer.
Scripts it.
Scripts it.
And then you change your margins a bit and the font, not the font, but the margins a bit to make it longer and stuff.
Double
and triple
spacing.
space it so you get more pages.
Yeah.
Zip desktop.
But everybody thought you were a tech guru doing back then.
Yeah.
Oh, you print! Wow, this is impressive. You get an A.
No, I mean,
I used to charge kids to actually. They'd give me the handwritten ones, and I'd type them in and print them out on my printer because I was one of the people that had one, and I would charge them for it. So that was a way to make money.
I mean, every piece of hardware I bought, I had to buy myself with my own money I earned at my part-time job. So my priorities were not about printing or reporting. I could tell you that much. I wasn't going to drop a couple $100 on a frickin' printer to impress some frickin' teacher that I gave zero F's about.
I do remember back in the day, because of the way that printing was formatted, you sometimes would rewrite sentences just so the paragraph would look better once justified. Because you couldn't justify pixel by pixel. There was
it was my whole character.
Yes,
big wide gaps
spacing,
between words.
So I rewrote a lot of things just to make it look okay when it was printed.
Okay. I mean, it's something we do now all the time that we take for granted: word processing, spreadsheets, all these things. Yeah. But back then, as a kid, that was not a priority for me. What about Brian Schubing? You've been using a lot of CoCo software. What were some of the real programs you used back in the day, Brian?
I started off with Scripted, otherwise with Dynastar and such. And, of course, a lot of Ultramuse. Was doing a lot of music there. That was pretty much what I did. And occasionally Profile when I needed to do some database stuff.
Neat. Ron Delvaux, being a longtime Tandy user, what were some of the serious programs you used back in the day?
CoCo Max, CoCo Max 3, Color Max, VIP Desktop, Deskmate 1, Deskmate 3, lots of stuff. I used a program, KDisk, to do disk utility stuff, and gosh, there was all kinds of stuff. I tried all different kinds of software, and experimented and was always doing drawings, and I did stuff for my business with,
Did you do any of the accounting and stuff for your business too?
My wife did. I think we used Color Accountant for a little while. Remember that program?
I remember advertising, never saw it, but
yeah, she tried that, and she would use in VIP. There was a spreadsheet.
Yeah, VIP Calc.
Yeah, and the thing about VIP was you could use other screen resolutions in whatever you used, whether it was the COM program or the spreadsheet or the writer.
And do you do much with packet radio and astronomy stuff too? Because I know you're interested in that stuff now, but did you use that back in the day? Or
we did WeFax, which was on shortwave, and not astronomy, hardly any astronomy stuff on. In early PC stuff, there was a couple of programs we used for some astronomy stuff. Back in the day, I got a CD on astronomy programs. They were, text-based and had to do with predicting where the planets were and things like that. But the CoCo lacked in the area of astronomy. Although
Planet Engine came out a bit later, I guess, and I don't know if you saw it before I put it on YouTube.
No, I did not. And what I did was I made astronomy observing sheets with a circle. I made like a master, and then I could print them out and then take them with me out to the telescope, and I'd draw either sunspots or planets. I'd show where the moons were and stuff like that, and then write down all the information, because it'd be a form. It'd have the date, time, whether it was cloudy or not, stuff like that. So that was many different uses. I used the machines. I've used the color computer from when I got mine in '83 on. Even when I had my PCs, I would still use it. It was fun.
still fun. In fact, I'm thinking, we should do a commercial where the same guy that got his kids, the CoCo, and where she says, "Help me with my stuff."
Yeah, right.
Maybe we should do a one later on where he's, guess what I got at eBay. This room is full of stuff I just bought. Take a look.
Oh my God. Michael Furman, did you use real utility programs back in the day?
Oh yeah. I used Scriptset, and I still have a couple of the discs. I have a disc called Bird Report and Mission Report that I did sometime in the early mid '80s on the color computer Scriptset. And I had things like Graphicom that I used some. I liked using Mac Paint. And I also, because, sort of crazy programmer kind of people, we had OS9 level 1, and I would fart around with the C compiler a little bit, even I think a little bit later. But yeah, a lot of the software that I actually have the discs for, other than those that I mentioned, they were either copied from the back of the the color computer users group, or actually a guy at the there was a guy at the we have an electronics flea market that's been going on for a very long time. Obviously they've been canceling it because the Santa Clara County won't let them operate, but there was a time where there was a guy that was basically he picked up lots of software, I think, from auction from school districts. So he had like Atari 800 stuff and color computer stuff. So, I bought hardware and software. I'm pretty sure I picked up a real I don't have my discs right now, but I'm pretty sure I actually got Gonna Buona. I think I remember seeing the comic book for that in person.
Neat. Neat. Who else used some stuff back in the day? What was your go-to? Mark Bosley, did you do any? Oh, Curtis Boyle? Curtis
Mark
Boyle?
can go first. Mine will be long.
Mark?
Well, judging from the disc collection I have, apparently I used a lot of either DS69 or the Telewriter 128 back in the day. And a lot of OS9 discs.
And did you print? Did you have an actual printer?
Yes. I've had several over the years, including a daisy wheel printer that you basically had to pour a slab of concrete to put it on.
Wow. I just found printers to be so expensive, and I had very little myself personal interest in printing anything.
Well, yeah, I think I've had a couple of handy printers, but then later it was like
it never really occurred to me, because this is something that we would probably do now, but it never occurred to me that maybe type something up at home and then bring it into Radio Shack and print it there when I was working at Radio Shack, because I was in college when I was working at Radio Shack. I could have used one of their printers or something, and I just never thought about that. So
for what it's worth, one of the reasons I like Dynaform is because it was so easy to set up a new printer, because every printer I had was its very end of life thing that I had got a hold of. And I may have to change printers at any moment.
Yeah.
So that was a boon.
Neat. Yeah, I do remember using Graphicom. We bought Graphicom from our computer club. It was distributed there, and we did buy legitimate copies. And I had a friend of mine that we collaborated a lot of stuff on. So he did more of the artwork than I did, but he would design a bunch of images. I would get copies of the artwork he did, and then I would write demos to animate a lot of the stuff that he would draw up, spaceships and planet surfaces and things like that. So I guess that would be a tool, but that was a tool we used for entertainment purposes, not for serious stuff, But that's the only thing that comes to mind.
Did you have this special dual joystick set up for Graphicom?
Honestly, I don't remember. I remember using the program. I just don't remember.
Switch?
No,
no,
they have two.
They had in order to completely use all the features of Graphicom, you actually had to have 2 joysticks with a couple extra buttons. Ours, of course, were homemade by, the engineering of Dad. But
okay. No, I don't remember that part, honestly. I don't remember how.
I remember you had that one. You had one little block. One joystick moved your 64 by 64 block around the screen, and then your other joystick moved within it, so you could actually get pixel precision, even on the 256
that's
mode.
Correct. Yeah, you had to use 2 joysticks, and it did support a couple extra buttons.
That must have been a newer version than I had, because I don't remember that.
Well, there's 2 versions of Graphicom too. There's Graphicom, and there's also Graphicom Part 2, and I can't remember which one of which.
Yeah, but Graphicom Part 2 almost seemed like it was made by a completely different group of people, because it was nothing like the original.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the same author or not, but I remember Graphicom itself was really neat and revolutionary, and Graphicom 2 just seemed like they crowbarred something together.
They borrowed the name.
Yeah.
I think it was distributed by the same company. That might have been the only Computize or whatever it was.
Wasn't it Whitesmith?
No, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Nick Morenti says yes. Okay. Curtis.
I think the later one was. I don't think Whitesmith was around when the first version of Graphicom came out, from what I remember. But
Curtis says he's got a short list of programs he used to.
I've got a short list.
Well, if anybody else has a short list, please go ahead.
Go ahead, James.
Okay. I used VIP Writer a lot when I was in college, and I can't remember what kind of printer I had. It was a dual pass one and stuff, and I was one of the few people that they would accept. I remember they would accept term papers from me because it was readable instead of looking like dots. But I wrote papers for 2 or 3 years on that before I switched to an Amiga. And I had Graphicom, and I used that to design graphics for a few games. And let's see, I also had Macro 80C, the assembler editor package from Microworks. And I'm sure I had some other stuff, but that's what I can remember.
Cool. Curtis, if you want to give us your laundry list. Hey, Erico's out there. Erico says, popping in just to wish you a great birthday and praise you guys for the show. We'll be catching up with you guys tomorrow. Cheers. Thanks, Erico, for stopping by. A lot of people, Rob Inman, a bunch of people chiming in of Telewriter 64.
Yeah, I think that was the premier one for the CoCo one too. VIP Writer would have been a close second, but for me, I actually did try both, and VIP Writer's keyboard reaction was too slow. It had keyboard type ahead, so you didn't lose anything. But I mean, Zip Writer, you just Telewriter, you just zipped around the screen as quick as you could.
Yeah, the high res graphics that they used to print it didn't render the characters that fast.
Yeah, but it was very much more reactive than VIP Writer. Unfortunately, that was the only reason I really stuck with it. On the CoCo 3, I did use word power from 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and by the end of that, it had a built-in pop-in calculator. You could just pop it up on the screen when you needed it. It had 128-column hardware scrolling for going for wider papers that you were writing. It used all 512K of memory. So if you wanted to write a term paper that was like 400K, you could. And then I got into OS 9, and that's where things really went nuts. I had a CGP 220 printer, which is the color printer from Radio Shack, which I did my first ones, but like some people were mentioning here, it looked really dot matrixy, even though it was in color, and it didn't look that good, so some people didn't accept it. But then I can't remember the name of the company that did it, but they actually had a ROM firmware upgrade you could plug into there, and there's a socketed ROM inside the printer itself, and it basically did double passes with a slight offset. So it was called like a bold mode, and all of a sudden it used a hell of a lot more ink, but it also solidified all the characters and made them look a lot better. The graphic stems were much brighter and crisper colors. So once I got that, that's when I started, renting my services out to the local kids to get, their high school papers done. And actually made a little bit of coin on that, so that was cool. And of course, you guys have all heard the story many times of where Bill, me, Dwayne Downing, and a bunch of others, set up the whole CoCo system at work. Now, most of that stuff was custom written for the ticketing industry, so it wasn't commercial stuff, but there was some commercial packages we did use. So if we're doing text editing on the terminals, we use Scred, screen editor from the Tandy and Microware developer library, which is a word processor that would work on almost any terminal. You could define your own terminals with what sequences did inverse video and cursor XY and everything else. And we had, I think, 3 or 4 different terminals that were not compatible with each other whatsoever. And it actually would work on all of them. All you had to do is just do -T equals the name of the terminal, or we could hard code it saying, we know this particular type of terminal is always on the T3 port, so it's automatically going to fire up the proper version on there. We used Calc, I think, for some spreadsheet stuff. There was a utility in OS 9 that wasn't commercial, but it was a freeware product that would convert DBase 3 files into quote comma delimited files. So we'd sometimes receive data in DBase 3 format and just be able to export it straight out under OS 9 and start working on the files right away. We've got zip files and stuff, and there was unzip utilities for OS 9. So of course we could unzip them, we could un-LHA them, and all kinds of things on our ARJ. There was a bunch of decompression utilities back in the day. Keith Alfonso, who's actually still on the CoCo group on Facebook, but he's not active in the retro community anymore, but he did a whole bunch of stuff back in the early 90s. And one of them was the AlphaSoft 2 BBS, I think it was called, which wasn't just a BBS system. It was a whole bunch of utilities he wrote to help support the BBS. And there's a ton of those we used, and there's a few we actually got permission from Keith to modify for work. So we had a BBS sysop chat, and we used that at work. So if anybody had to ask me or Bill a technical question, like, why isn't this working, or I can't find this or whatever, needed help, they could immediately ping us, and it would actually beep at us, so we'd hear it even when we're on another window running printers or programming. It was ding, 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 and then we'd switch over. Okay, what do you need help with? And sometimes we have to go down there and do something. He also had a multi-chat program that basically did a conference room, and then you could link up all the terminals at once. And we also had a modem hooked up. So one of our quote unquote terminals was anybody could phone in from home. And sometimes we'd have to have a group conference, and with text, you could put in specific spellings of things we needed to know about. So you couldn't really do it on a voice phone call. So we'd set that up, and you can get up to 9 people simultaneously chatting at once, including people that aren't even in the premises. So they would log in from remotely. The others would log in from the terminals around the building. Bill and I would be on the CoCo itself. And it would actually have this screen set up that would actually say that so-and-so just sent this message, so-and-so sent this message. And you'd have a running conversation with 9 people simultaneously on the CoCo at once, which, at that time, the PC didn't do that kind of stuff very well. So, and then, of course, commercial things like, C compilers and assemblers and like RMA and OS 9 itself, of course.
Nick Morentis is snoring, so you need to speed this up. So, yeah.
Well, I can add some more news, and then Mikey can join him.
Yeah, nap time.
I think a lot of us forgot terminal programs.
Oh, I definitely forgot. I used Teleterm because we only had a CoCo 1. So.
Yeah, there was a ton of good ones we had. I used Color Compact at first. That was the first one besides the one Rainbow.
And Compact,
but it was terrible.
Compact sucked.
Yeah.
Yes,
Greggy Term.
Greggy Term, Mikey Term. That was the one I used on the
Term is what I
Supercom.
Yeah, Supercom under OS 9 or KBCom, Ultimate Term.
V Terminal.
Yeah, V Term, the commercial package from Tim.
I'm looking at floppies today. Want to see what I just found?
OS Term.
That's Von Cato's. That was an awesome. That one actually was good because it actually had its own built-in BBS mode you could host.
What does that say?
Oh, Ricky Term. Rick Adams. That's a Delphi terminal.
And then if you look at the disk, what the disk actually is.
IBM
OS
2 2.0.
It's an actual IBM disk, but it's been reformatted with
OS 2.
What is this disk actually? It says printer disk number 1. Anyway, it's got Mikey Term on it, and then Ricky Term again, and Mikey Term again, and Utiliterm.
You guys are insane.
Speaking of terminal programs, I recently was posting on Ron's Garage that I found some text files, and in there was Richard Lorbiewski from 1990, and Chet Simpson, and Steggy.
Terry Steggy?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I sent each one of them their little blurb that they talked about at the time, and said, it's funny, we wait long enough, and then they come around and hear they're present here on the show, and they show up in 1990.
Simon, did you use any utilities back in the day, Simon Jonathan?
Mostly, I didn't play games. Mostly, the only thing I used was Ed Tasm cartridge.
Okay.
but it's really the only thing I used. I mean, my dad bought me my CoCo 2 back in the day, and I helped him program some stuff, and we just took, because we didn't have like the CoCo magazines, we just took like normal magazines in the UK for any kind of computer, be it Spectrum, be it Commodore 64, God forbid, Big 20, whatever. And we would adapt a program. So we ended up making some programs where my dad would like index all his tapes, all his records and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we mostly just did it ourselves.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I did create a handful of my own utilities as well for stuff for when because I was always just trying to work on a game or a demo or something like that. So I wrote tools to help me do things. I remember there was one time I didn't have any joysticks. My joysticks broke. Again, I was a kid. I had to buy everything myself. And so since I didn't have joysticks and I wasn't able to buy new joysticks, I wrote my own poor man's graphic editing tool that worked on keyboards. So I had to, I was working on designing all the graphics for a Donkey Kong style game. And I was doing it pixel by pixel using the arrow keys and the space bar to set the different pixels. But I actually I'd actually come up with copy and paste stuff with, I could use get and put and draw a box and move things. I could draw half a picture and then mirror it on the other side, or I could flip things and stuff. So I had written a pretty useful graphic editing tool because I needed to get some graphics and I didn't have a joystick. So I've done things like that, you know. And
I think this touches on something that's a bit more unique to the CoCo world than some of the other 8-bits at the time, is that we had much more of a independent, self-developing community where we didn't code commercially buy programs as much as some of the other platforms did or pirate them. We would actually write our own.
Yeah, like what Simon was saying.
A lot of us did that. I think proportionally more so on our platform than on most other 8-bits at the time. Most others would just pirate, I need a word processor, I need a spreadsheet, I need a graphics editor or whatever.
What I loved was like Musica had a program where you could play the file through the DOS prompt, right? So you could create a Musica sound composition, and then there was a bin file that you could load and play that song.
Yeah.
So what we used to do is I had my friend who would draw all the graphics in Graphicom. I would do all the animation, and like I had a guy moonwalking backwards on the screen because he drew the frames, and I had the guy moonwalk, and then we'd play Musica's Michael Jackson song. So it was just like there was some, and this is all stuff that I did in BASIC. So, the guy would draw the graphics, I would come up with the animation, and then I would play some music that I got. And I don't know where I got half the crap I got because there was no internet. It wasn't like we downloaded it, but I was able to get songs from Musica, and I don't know where the hell I got them, but I guess we got them from our clubs and things like that, copying them from friends. But, I had a pretty good music library where I could do a demo and play. It wasn't playing in the background or anything, but, I could do a homemade demo with a guy dancing and playing Michael Jackson music on the CoCo. And it's all because we just figured out how to do it, so... It was pretty neat.
And of course, there's another big one of using a commercial product that was still used up until recently. I don't know if they're still doing, but the Glen side, of course, was using Dynacalc to do all your, logging into CoCo Fest, right?
Oh, yeah, that really sped things up. All right, cool. Anybody else want to chime in? I don't want to deprive anybody, but we could probably go on forever, and it's probably going to become less entertaining and interesting the longer we go. But if anybody has anything else they want to chime in on, please feel free. Alan Murphy, by all means, sir.
Just real short, I grew up way out in the country, and so didn't have a lot of access to different utilities. Most of the stuff came out of Rainbow, so BASIC was really the number one thing that I used back in the day.
True.
And being the only kid around that knew anything about computers, I ended up fairly early on basically writing code for small offices and stuff around. And so when I went to go do reports or whatever for school, I would just type them in BASIC and have them set up as a program that I could then attach to the printer. And I tended to use the office printers at whatever company I was doing work for at the time.
Oh, that's cool. That works.
do the reports. And I stopped after a couple of tries because the teachers would basically say, no, we're not taking this because you cheated and did it on a computer.
There was more work involved to do that. That's just how back-asswards people were back then.
Yeah, so it was like, all right, so there was no point in buying a word processor or a printer myself because the few times I tried
cheated.
It was good. It was just, no,
yes.
you need to the actual report. You can't have your computer do it.
That was the calculators in chemistry.
Yeah,
class
right. Like the
problem that I
computer
had.
did it for you.
The computer thought up all the words and created the paragraphs and sentence structure and everything
Did
else.
the formula and came up with the answer.
I guess our teachers were more woke here or something because they actually encouraged us to do it on computer.
Wow.
Actually, maybe it's because of my handwriting because it's they probably couldn't read my reports normally. They encouraged me to use the printer so they could read it.
Yes, Nick Marotta.
I'll keep this really short. This is
okay.
Maybe
Next,
maybe a little bit off the path, but for me, OS 9 Level 2, the manual was so good, and I learned so many computer concepts that were used even to this day, like multi-time slicing and memory management and all that sort of thing. I thought that was really valuable in terms of getting into computer science.
Very cool.
I do have one.
Level 2, by the way.
James Diffendafer and then Mark Overholzer. Yeah, James.
I do have one other program that I used, and that was the VIP speller, and it's a bit of a horror story. I was spell checking a term paper for a class that was like half the grade. It was 4:00 in the morning, and the power went out in the dorms, and it erased my disk.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I used spell and fix too for that myself, but I did use spelling checkers.
I took the F and took academic probation and retook the class and got an A.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
I remember Dale Lear talking about that was one of the products he had worked on was a spell checker. Mark Overholzer.
I was just going to say, I didn't use the CoCo back in the day, unfortunately, but I did have computer stuff. So I won't bore you with a lot of names of programs you've never heard before. But the word processor I did use was made by Quark, who made a product later, Quark, who made desktop publishing software.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Quark Express.
Quark Express and stuff, yeah.
Exactly. Then before that, they made a product for the Apple II line. It's a really good word processor. But anyway, but I used it for, doing schoolwork stuff with. My dad ran a company, did roofing construction, so he used it with a spreadsheet. He bought a printer, got a nice Star SG10. And so, we used it for business stuff as well as a few games. Also, I had an assembler too for it that I paid for. So, I bought stuff, used stuff.
Neat. Nicholas Marentes, I know we heard from you. Did you use any serious tools or utilities back in the day?
The only thing I ever used was the EdTasm.
Okay.
Starting with the old ROMPAC EdTasm from Tandy, and then moved to the can't remember what it was called, but there was a patch, the super patched EdTasm in Rainbow. I switched to that, and then I switched to another patched EdTasm, Ultra EdTasm or something.
Yeah, because the first patch was Roger Schrag, and who did the second?
Roger Schrag's was the super patched one, and there was one by a
Curtis
Randall
or something. I think did the. I remember what you're talking about.
It was a Randall something, if I recall, who did the ultra patched one, and then of course I switched to the Robert Galt one, the EdTasm
6309 one,
6309 one. And basically that was the main thing I ever used, and I'm still using it today.
No, you never used word processors or anything like that back in school days?
I had VIP Writer, but like Steve, I never used to type anything up on it. I had it there just in case I was going to use it one day, but I never did. So
you guys must have good handwriting then, because my handwriting has sucked since I was born.
No, my handwriting wasn't great, but it never occurred to me to type. And matter of fact, not only did it not occur to me, I don't think it was ever brought up in class. So it wasn't even like a concept that appeared in my consciousness that, you could if you wanted to. Other than maybe if they said type it on a typewriter, that might have been an option. And I guess maybe some people did typed in book reports or papers, but I never typed that I'm aware of. And
because in my case, in elementary school, grades 1 to 8, my handwriting sucked all my life. Still does.
Yeah.
Like it's. I've had doctors say, you know what, I can't even read this if it was prescription. And literally, they have said that my writing is worse than theirs, which is why I don't do it. So my teachers, once they got I used to be a fairly straight A student in my elementary school days, and my one subject where I'd get C's and D's every time was handwriting. So once I handed my very first one, and I think I borrowed somebody else's dot matrix printers before I got my CGP, so this was in the early 80s. And once they saw that they actually could see something that I wrote and actually read it, because I think some of the reason I got worse marks on some other reports and stuff is because they literally couldn't read it.
Couldn't read it.
So after I did that the first time, they encouraged me from there on in.
Yeah.
Every teacher encouraged me to start handing it in, printed out. So
I've recently realized I typed so many things on a CoCo keyboard that the problem I have with a standard keyboard is that. Because now that I'm back to my CoCo again, I can type much faster on that keyboard than I can with the caps lock next to the A and
Yeah,
all
true.
these. The quote is supposed to be over the 2.
Yeah, shift 2 and yeah. Yeah. It is,
You were ruined for modern keyboards.
Retro Innovation
Exactly
says if
right.
we're ready to bash Commodore printing, he'll see if he can join. So why don't we, well, let's take another quick break. And Jim Brain, if you want to join us, please do. But then I do want to get into updates and acquisitions. We're going on now. How long have we been doing this train wreck? We're going on 2 hours, 45 minutes. So do
I
want to
gotta
start
take off.
Okay, James, thanks for being here.
Later, guys.
Happy
Later,
4th
James.
of July. Happy birthday, America. Happy birthday, Tom C. Take care, James. All right, we're going to run a commercial break, and then we're going to come back with updates and acquisitions. What do we want to run here? What commercial? We've done shortwave. Let's see. I'm going to do this one for you, Nick. You like this one, Nick Marotta.
We'll return after these messages.
My fellow Americans, Australians, Canadians, Europeans, and all of you ands, I'm calling on all y'all to help us make the world great again by visiting the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com, where you can get yourself a coffee mug like this with a little cute cartoon character that says, I'm a cocoa nut. You could also get yourself a coffee mug like this with a Color Computer 3 that says, I'm a cocoa nut. You could get yourself a deluxe travel mug like this with the CoCoTALK logo on it. You might even be able to get yourself a DVD like this with over 2 hours of gameplay goodness. It is time for us to rise up and make the world great again by enjoying some quality retro merchandise and CoCo nostalgia. So please visit 8bit256.com and let's make the world great for the color computer. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Coco Land. This is Brian Schubring with Music Man here at the Coco Fest. Having fun, fixing issues, and making things roll, and making lots of sound. Have a great day, guys.
Baby, there's something I need to talk to you about. Remember when we first met? Everything was so easy and it felt like nothing could stop us. But now, everything is such a struggle. And if I'm being honest, you're really starting to show your age. Can I get the check, please?
Break up with 512K. Use 2 megabytes now with Nitros 9 Ease of Use Edition.
Ease of use. Download EOU today at lcurtisboyle.com.
Some people have big plans after school. You know what Elliot's going to do? Jeff, too. Elliot's at work on a book report using Scripted on Radio Shack's Color Computer 3. It hooks up to his TV. And Jeff's at his Radio Shack Color Computer 3 playing the newest football game. But wait, what's Elliot doing playing new Super Pitfall? And Jeff's having a blast with a new math tutor. You never know what you might try with more than 100 programs for fun and learning. Radio Shack's Color Computer 3 comes with everything you see here. Other items each sold separately. Only at Radio Shack.
And now, CoCo Thoughts by Samuel Gimes. I remember the days of grade school when on the playground we would talk about the latest computer and console games. Until one day when a kid told the teacher he was having a blast with his new math tutor. After he got out of the hospital, he changed schools.
Greetings, YouTubers. Atari Leaf here, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
All right, and we're back. Let's remember the reason why we're all here today. We're not celebrating the CoCo. We're celebrating the birthday of Tom C. from Jersey. Greatest thing to ever happen to the United States of America was when Tom C. dropped on this country. Happy birthday, Tommy.
Shouldn't we be talking about how he impacted our lives?
Let's that'll be another discussion. Is how has Tom C improved our lives and improved the world and in commerce and education?
I said impacted. You're assuming improved.
We've just been joined by Retro Innovations. Retro might want to be able to tell us a little bit about some things. Hey, welcome, Jim.
Hey, sorry. I just thought you guys would like this nice anecdote. I heard a bunch of folks talking about printing and how folks were, it was too nice and whatnot. And so it reminded me of a story. So back in the day, I know a lot of folks had a first printer, and the big thing at the time was, to get a printer at all was a big deal. And the first printers were like 7-pin printers, if I remember correctly. At least they were in the environment that I was. And they didn't have proper descenders. And so it just looked kind of hokey when you're printing term papers or whatnot. And so I don't know if everybody else did, but everybody who was not, had 7-pin printers, their big thing was to graduate to an 8-pin printer, because then you'd have true descenders. I don't know if anyone remembers that being the big thing at the time. But,
oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that was like you'd really made it. And, of course, 24 printers were just like nirvana. But 8-pin printers were really cool. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And so 8-pin printer was near letter quality, which was pretty awesome. So, obviously, I used a competitive computer back in the day. So, but one of the things that we were trying to do was get an 8-pin printer, and all the 8-pin printers were really expensive. And so Commodore came out with a printer called the 1526. All their printers were 15 something, 15, 15, 15, 25, and so forth. And so it was an 8-pin printer, and the price was relatively attractive. And so as soon as I could save up enough money, I purchased that printer. There were other competitive offerings like the Sakoshas and some things like that I ultimately would have been a better choice for the story I'm going to tell you. But anyway, I got a 1526 printer. And then shortly thereafter, started using programs that did fonts as opposed to just Courier, right? And well, this is okay because I have a graphics printer. I have an 8-pin graphics printer, so all was good. Well, that's when I found out that I don't know if it was for cost reasons or because that printer was never designed to be a graphics printer, but the 1526 and its companion, the MPS 802. Don't ask me why. I have no idea why they was labeled under two different names. But anyway, it had no graphics capability, but it did have a single redefinable character. So you could redefine one character in the character set on the printer, and that was your graphics capability. And yeah, I know. And so, but then somebody else found out that could be redefined. It couldn't be redefined. It could only be defined once per line, but if you did a character turn without a line feed, you could redefine the character again. And so some masochist wrote a graphics print driver for this printer that would essentially print the redefinable graphics character with 8 pixels of graphics goodness on the printer or on paper, and then it would do a character turn with line feed, a tab over one space, redefine the character again, print it again, character turn without line feed, tab over 2 spaces, print it again, and do that 80 times per line. So if you can imagine printing out as I think James had indicated about almost losing or definitely losing a paper or whatnot, I printed out an entire did an entire term paper before I found this out, and it was only in this graphical font format. And so I started my 10-page paper printing at 7 o'clock in the evening, and it finished printing the 10 pages at 6:30 in the morning the next morning, and I had to stay up the entire night to make sure it didn't mess up or I'd have to restart it.
Oh, wow.
So if you ever have a chance to buy one of those printers and you're a masochist, feel free to do so. Otherwise, stay far away from any printer like that.
Oh, dear God.
I forgot about the 7 and 8-bit thing, because I remember like the DMP 100, the first of the cheap Radio Shack ones, was one of the 7 bits where the descenders were all popped up, so everything looked like crap.
Yeah.
That's right, they did. So, so that was for a 16-year-old with not a ton of disposable cash. That was a very, very hard lesson.
Wow.
So there you go.
Thank you.
For those Commodore masochists, I totally recommend like a Star Gemini 10 with the Cardco Plus G interface, which really rocks.
Or one of the good, decent Epsons back then, the FX80.
Yeah, FX80
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh, yeah, definitely
MX80.
an
Yeah,
Epson.
there were a ton of good options, and I chose none of them.
Wow.
Well, I graduated in '73. There were no computers in high school. We had a IBM Selectric in a room at high school that was hooked up to some computer somewhere else, and it was basically the terminal was the paper coming out of it.
Wow.
And we played Hangman on it. That was it.
My very high quality advice was to take a worn out ribbon and print the same page 3 times, and it comes out pretty good.
Oh wow!
But you have to
It'd be
use the worn out
slightly off, so it
ribbon.
wouldn't quite fit perfectly, so you'd kind of fill in the dots.
They print, yeah, it kind of fuzzies it and makes it sharper by.
It's like a 24 pin printer, but in 3 passes to get all 24 pins.
But you have to use a worn out ribbon, or there's too much ink on the paper.
Yeah, and it's smeared. I tried that too. I actually remember that.
That almost sounds like drinking more beer to make somebody look better.
That works too. So.
It's what you got. It's what you got.
All right. Well, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show today. We're going to talk about project updates and acquisitions. It sounded like not a lot of people had not a lot to report this week, but that's okay. We'll keep it short. Alan Murphy, were you raising your hand, sir?
Yeah, I've got a couple real quick ones if you.
By all means. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you for a second, just so we got you. OS 9 Level 2. Ooh, Volume 1, A Beginner's Guide to Windows.
That's a
actually
rare
have
one.
some docs now.
Nice.
Oh wait, Curtis is writing a bunch of docs too. But kind of the real cool one for this week, courtesy of Mr. Dave 6809.
The 16K.
Well, that's what we were talking about, isn't it?
Color Computer Space Adventures. Wow, that looks really cool. I like the cover. I like the cover of that.
I think that's the one that Jim Gary's program is based out of, that Lunar Lander thing we showed.
Space Attack. Wow, look at the artwork in this thing is stellar.
And that was a series of books they did, didn't they? They had space games.
Red
adventure games,
Alert.
and-
Wow, this is really good. This is a glossy magazine. Looking.
This is like the UK type books. where
Okay.
they had excessive artwork and very short programs.
Moon Shuttle.
So
Okay.
this is the one that's kind of like that Lander one, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, I now have some type-in goodness that I can play with.
That's neat.
Yeah, and that was that.
Very cool. I think Michael Furman said he had a small update to do too. Did you not, Mikey?
Yeah, I have 2 updates. Let's do the hardware update first. I'll grab this thing here, and I've already alluded to what it is. Let's see if I can show you guys.
Lift it up a little bit higher. Okay. Drive, something to do with drive. You got a drive edge connector.
Grease Weasel PC Drive Rev 1, it says?
Grease Weasel PC Drive Rev 1. Okay.
Oh no, not the grease weasel.
I have a Grease Weasel.
Is that what a Grease
Thanks
Weasel
to
looks
what
like?
you've had. Yeah, so I have a an adapter here for my cable, but it basically has a 34-pin connector here and power connector, and the other side is a am I muted?
Your bandwidth is low, it's saying, so your video just got small. You're showing up.
All right, hang on a
yeah.
second. Let me kill YouTube. I
Don't
know if
kill
that'll
don't
make a
kill
difference.
YouTube. We'll be off the air, man.
Yeah. Anyway, the other side, this is I guess it's an imitation blue pill, so it's some STM32 chip or something. But it basically plugs in the USB port here, and you run the software. You connect up a floppy to it. I have a floppy drive here, and I've been reading. I have a stack of discs. I've been reading them while the show's been going on.
Okay.
And making images of them. So this is something that's not easy to do nowadays because our computers don't have floppy drives. So that's what this gadget is cool for.
Are you getting the full amount of flux from each one of your floppies?
I am getting all of the MFM goodness off of every single disc.
That is awesome. We will leave no flux unflucked. So
Yep. So I just got this yesterday and just started playing with it this morning.
Let me ask you: is there any TTL in that by any chance?
Well, yes. It actually shows up in your computer as a
TTL, DriveWire, ESP,
That FM, MFM,
RS, RS232. Very
Good
cool.
use of a CoCo
Yep.
Talk.
So that's update number 1. I just started playing with that, and I'm finding out some very interesting stuff on, blank floppies have some interesting things written on them, like past track 80. It's a little interesting.
Okay.
All right. So
Controversial even. It sounds like solid. It sounds like controversy. What's written past track 80? Find out later.
Yeah. So the other update is PyDriveWire. About I guess a month and a half ago or so, somewhere around there, Alan Murphy gave me a feature request for PyDriveWire, and I had time to work on that this week. So I haven't, this will be coming in the future release, but for those adventurous people, I can provide a version to play around with it. But I have taught PyDriveWire how to do the deload protocol.
Oh.
So deload and deload-m commands are in, I think, Extended Color Basic 1.1 and 1.2, and you use the bitbanger port on the back of the machine, and it can copy files at 300 baud or 1200 baud. So I just got the initial implementation of that working yesterday I think, and I shared it with Alan, and apparently he was able to get it to work. So
let me ask you a question. Was this what they use in the classroom, where you'd have all the CoCos download the program at the same time?
Yeah, the network controller 3 and 4 stuff. Yeah.
Yep. That's don't know if anybody actually used it, but that's
Yes,
what
they
it was
did.
for.
Yes, they did. I'd actually seen it a few times.
It uses twin lead cable, right? Not coax.
No. You guys might be confusing things. They had the ArcNet for the Model 2 and some of the other computers, but we're just talking about serial port here. 300 baud and 1200 baud serial port.
Yeah, just out the bitbanger, and you type deload, and you'd actually load the thing right off.
Right.
Yeah.
So I believe that the way that worked is you had to have some kind of a server software running, and I believe Radio Shack sold a box kind of like the what is it called, the Joey serial switch?
Yeah.
Except I think it had like 20, a dozen ports on it or something like that.
16, if I remember. Yeah.
16, yeah. So I vaguely remember seeing that in the catalog, in the Radio Shack catalog. So basically, turn it to number. Everybody's got a serial cable plugged into the back of this thing, and so they go computer number 1, type deload.
Oh, I see. I thought it was like everybody downloaded at the same time, like a simultaneous thing.
No. It's serial communications.
Okay.
It's not the.
I think there was a version that did that, because basically everybody had to type deload at the same time, and you'd get all your systems, and then the host computer would just send the same file to all of them. They got the same.
Like a
signals,
multiplexer, whereas
it wasn't like anybody could individually load programs. You're right, but
I really don't. Based on the way that the protocol works, I don't think you can do that.
Okay.
Well, there's no protocol, because basically everybody's getting the same stream whether they want it or not. So everybody types deload gets the exact same.
Deload requires a two-way handshake in between the color computer and the server
between
on
you
the
and
other
the
end. So
I see what you mean. Okay.
So you can't actually do that with the deload protocol. You can do one at a time, but multiple won't work.
Okay.
Because it actually sends a request.
So they must have different software with the network controllers then for the CoCo, because they did do this simultaneous load, but yeah, maybe it wasn't deload. You're right.
I think some of the earlier ones used the cassette port, that you could do a broadcast like that.
That would.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
I knew there was some type of broadcast, but yeah. So this is not it. Okay.
No.
Okay. It's still cool though.
So, one of the possible ways that this can be used is if you want to bootstrap DriveWire, and you did not have the ROM pack, like an HDB DOS ROM pack, you could actually use deload to load HDB DOS bin file into your computer.
Oh, wow.
And then you exec that, because the HDB DOS bin file actually copies itself into high memory and then executes. So then I don't have this all completely working. Like right now, you would have to restart PyDriveWire, but you could restart PyDriveWire in DriveWire mode. So that way you don't need to have the only two pieces of hardware you need to have are a DriveWire cable and a like a USB serial adapter and PyDriveWire.
Wow.
Yeah, because you wouldn't need a disk controller, you wouldn't need an SDC, you would not even need a cassette deck or anything. You would just straight bit banger out, and that's all you need, just the CoCo and the bit banger.
Yeah, and that was the idea behind the feature suggestion, was with the deload client built into the firmware, all we needed was a server that was already popular and widely available that supported it. And then there were a couple of people on the CoCo Discord that were talking about, hey, I just got a CoCo 2. How do I get started with it?
Yep.
And it's like, well, if we only could just type deload and get your DriveWire client copied over. And so that's where that came from.
Neat.
That's a good idea, actually, because a lot of people that are just getting into the CoCo now, they don't have cassette decks or the cassette cables. They don't have SDCs. They don't have drive controllers. All they got is a CoCo on eBay. And that is all built into the ROM. So it's basically just as long as you got the DriveWire cable, plug it into your PC, away you go.
Brilliant. There are brilliant. I've said this a million times. This is a fantastic community. There's brilliant people in here. There's amazing people in here. It's incredible, doing incredible things.
That really what you think, Stevie?
That's exactly what I think.
You think it's a pile of crikey?
No, I think it's really cool, and I actually understand it, and I even stayed awake. So that's all good things.
Wow, I did my job today. Amazing. So I'm going to be working on refining this feature, but Alan pretty much said it. Once I fixed the file, I forgot to check in. He said it pretty much worked. So
okay, cool.
But there's still refinement to do.
I'm also.
Are you changing PyDriveWire to actually be a deload host, just if somebody wants to just use the deload command to load programs and directly run them, as opposed to loading a DriveWire capable client? You have to type a command into the server to switch it to deload mode, but you just switch it to deload mode and then it becomes a deload server. So PyDriveWire now supports DriveWire, deload, and MC protocols.
Wow,
cool.
Very, very, very cool. You're going to have a Snapchat plugin for that and filters in the near future, by any chance?
Snapchat? What do we snap? Snapchat
hair filter, please.
We need emoticons.
Yeah, emoticons. Okay. No, that's cool.
I know about Nyan Cat.
Welcome to 2002. What was that?
Who else has got updates or acquisitions they would like to share with us at this time?
When can I get internet on my CoCo?
The internet.
You can do that through DriveWire right now.
Do that now, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I want to go on Facebook with my CoCo.
Oh my God. you have a week to load a page?
You'd be better off doing Twitter on your CoCo.
Yeah. Who else?
Well,
updates, acquisitions. Anyone? Show and tell time? Anyone? This is the.
I've got a little project that I did.
Okay.
I got.
What is this? Hold on. Ron Delvaux's holding up Castle Guard in a cartridge. Very nice.
I got that in 1990.
Oh, okay. So that's a recent acquisition. That's a recent acquisition. Okay. Brian Schubring, where are you going? Are you spinning around?
No, I just made a XY pivot for my camera. That's all I did. And I use an Arduino to control some RC servos. That's all I did.
Okay. That's cool. I thought maybe you got a new swivel chair in your at your table or something. So,
flight simulator chair, and they'll actually flip you upside down and everything.
You're gonna need.
Well, you didn't say acquisition. You're not.
It's kind of CoCo related.
Okay, it's a microcontroller, right? Which is what the 6009 was, right? So, very cool. Very cool. Anyone else? Anyone? Project update, acquisition, show and tell, story to share. Anything? Bueller. All right. Well, then that leaves me.
So I have a few things to show. I wanted to give everyone else a chance because I'm very selfless that way.
We're all out of time
So let's go over my stack of goodies. First, not necessarily CoCo related, but I got this thanks to Allison Deneau. A few weeks ago, I posted that I've been getting on eBay the 3 Investigators books. She says, hey, I have one. Would you like it? And here it is. I got it in the mail. This is book 2, and this one is actually in better condition than my original book 2 from my childhood. So it's nicer quality. The colors are still good. It's not faded. So I got that. Thank you, Allison. Richard Lorby.
Nice. First one ever read.
Richard Lorbieski, who was on the show, I ordered his new and improved CoCo SDC. This is the Blackout Edition. I have
Black Beauty, we're going to call it.
Yeah, the Black Beauty. I have not opened it yet. Hold on. Oh my God, it's got that new SDC smell. Oh my God, this is...
As long as it doesn't smell like Richard, you're good.
God, this is so good. Right, so as long as it doesn't smell like
CoCoTALK
Richard.
does not recommend sniffing your packages.
All right, so this is the Blackout Edition CoCo SDC.
SDC, nice.
Look at that.
Very sexy.
It is very
It's like
sexy.
the first peel, man.
Yeah.
Where's the real time clock?
Beauty to behold,
It
joy
is.
for forever.
And where I want to put this is inside this acrylic case here. This is the Tim Lindner acrylic CoCo SDC case.
Oh, cool.
But what I want to do is I want to find brass fittings like this and brass screws. So when I put it together, it's going to be all black and gold inside the clear case. So I've got to take this. Now that I have this, I'm going to bring this to Home Depot and find the right size fittings and the right thread bears to have this together. But I think this will look really sexy having, you know, basically the black.
Some brass and wood spaces there. You might get that what do they call it? Cyberpunk or whatever.
Oh yeah, like a steampunk look, right?
Steampunk. That's what I was trying to get.
So just imagine this, right? So the black SD board inside this clear case is going to look very, very sexy, right? So that's kind of cool. Very cool, right? So little project, and I'm thinking I'm either gonna make that one my main one and make my other one a dragon one, or vice versa. But I want to have a dragon SDC. So. Neil Blanchard from the CoCo Crew podcast recently put out that he had cartridges for sale, and I bought both of them, and I have not looked at them yet either. But if you notice here, they're in nice plastic. It's not shrink wrapped, but it's a nice plastic bag, right? So let's go ahead and look at the first one. This was Evan Wright's 3D Monster Maze, and these are a little different than the first round of cartridges that John Linville had released on the Retro Tinker brand, because those were in red boxes, right? This is like the Tandy reproduction box. Looks pretty cool, right? Looks like the original program pack cartridge. You've got the cartridge label on the side. We've got this. So
the box reproduction is amazing.
Yeah. Tim Lindner.
Is that the ones Tim Lindner did?
Yeah, I have to imagine. I can't think that there'd be too many sources for these, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up.
Don't tear the wrapper.
Right, and one of the things that you guys were talking about before was that he showed pictures of different cards, right? So this one says 3D Monster Race by Evan Wright, and when you turn it over, so it's a 2-sided card. So
okay, that's
I could make either one of those work in here, and then I requested there's a little button in here. Okay, this one says,
"Oh, neat,
Nick Marotta, smooth Canadian." Right, so that's got Barney the dinosaur on there. That's very cool.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, it looks like Barney the dinosaur to me. Now, this one came in choice of colors, and I requested the clear color, which is kind of an opaque looking one, right? So you can kind of see here, it's got the label on it, and down here you can see, actually the cartridge is pretty small, right? So
the other one the other was a smoky gray or something like that.
Well, this is the translucent one, right? So you can kind of see through it.
These are 3D printed. Right?
These are 3D printed. Yeah. And he said that I asked him, I go, dude, where are you getting new cartridges from? And he's like, oh, I'm printing them myself, and they take like 6 or more hours to print. But he said he knew that I was a collector, so he printed mine on super fine settings. So yeah, it's very smooth and everything. Ooh. You know, not a lot of texture on here. But this is cool. A semi-clear translucent CoCo cartridge. The first in the history of the color computer, right? That's cool, right?
Wow.
I like that.
Very nice.
That's neat.
All right. And of course, now this is my second copy of Bomb Threat. I had the first copy that was in the red box. But now this is the new and improved one. And I think I asked for the yellow one on this one. So I want to see what that looks like.
Is it only yellow, Bomb Threat?
There was 2 colors to choose from.
Another color too. The dark color,
okay.
like blue or something?
Yeah, blue or something like
I
that.
thought that was Monster Maze. That there was multiple colors.
Oh, it might have been. Yeah, it might have been. One of them. All right.
Yay, Neil.
So this is the. Oh, look at this, and the yellow looks really good with this label, right?
Yeah.
Bomb
definitely.
threat, Brick Adams.
Well, say caution, right? Warning, warning, yellow.
All right. Bomb threat.
What's the catalog number there?
84-2017. So that's the 2 years.
Okay.
Like the original game came out in 84.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool, right? And so once again, you can see that it's very smooth if you look at that plastic and even the seal joints here.
So, Steve, after you get your SDC and one of those put in your MPI, you're going to sit there and stare at the machine for a while.
Why is that? As all the colors?
God, you got translucent SDC, and then you got the yellow pack, and
oh yeah,
so many colors. You won't even turn it on yet.
Yeah, it's going to be like psychedelic, man.
Gonna need a bigger multi-pack.
I need a big. Yeah, I'm going to need a 16
Oh, there
slot
you
multi-pack.
Orchestra
All right.
90.
Orchestra
Sound
90.
pack.
So that's my update. I got a couple of things, and luckily they all came in time for the show. But yeah, I mean, these cartridges are looking really good. And at this point now, I have every new game that's ever been released on cartridge, and sometimes multiple copies. So some of them are autographed. Not trying to brag or anything, but I've got some autographed copies of games on cartridges. Yeah, neat. So I'm looking forward to checking out Evan's new game. I bought his game last year at CoCo Fest too, his Hunt the Wumpus, and I never even looked at it. So I have Evan's cartridge from last year, the Hunt the Wumpus game. So yeah, we got games on cartridges, folks. All right, so that was updates and acquisitions. Anyone have anything else they want to talk about on the update side of anything? Anyone?
I'll probably have an announcement for updates next week, but not this week.
Okay. Well, then I think the last thing that we're going to talk about, and maybe we even save it. We're going on 3 hours. Maybe this can be a 15-minute discussion, probably. So our last kind of panel discussion, as we were thinking about things, because this kind of came up on Facebook this week as well, is I believe the question was, if I'm paraphrasing, what do you prefer, real hardware or emulators? And go.
And that was also covering emulators from the hardware perspective and from the software perspective, like the MAME and that type of thing, or CoCo FPGA, etc.
Yeah. And of course, now we have to preface this. This is people's opinions, and it doesn't matter what's right or wrong. I'm going to say, and I've said this a million times, I've said that there's no wrong way to CoCo. So however you want to CoCo, you CoCo the way you CoCo. As long as you're CoCoing, it's all good. So Nick Marotta, who said, if I may quote, "I don't want to sound like a snob or anything, but I prefer real hardware."
And a venti latte, thank you. One and a half pumps.
Yeah.
Not 1 3/4, 1.5 pumps. Yeah, no, it's. I mean, I tried to do the emulator at first because I hung around you guys for quite a while before I got back into the hobby. And
just wouldn't go away either. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And I tried the emulator route, and it just. I mean, I do emulators for other things like video game consoles and that, but because I love the CoCo so much, it just didn't capture it for me. So I had to. It wasn't until I got an actual CoCo that I really felt like I was. And again, this is my opinion.
Sure.
But until I had an actual CoCo, it just didn't feel the same to me. There's just something about touching actual keys and pressing, and having it running the actual CPU, and it's just
yeah.
For me. But I mean, if you have no choice, you only have
I believe that was when you followed that thread. I believe that was a resounding, probably 99%. Everybody says that. It's like it's like saying, well, listen, would you prefer to have $1 million in the bank or $200,000 in debt? What would you prefer? Well, there's what you want, and there's what you can realistically sometimes achieve too. So I'm sure everybody would love to have the hardware, but not everybody is able to for a variety of reasons too. Yeah. So how about we start with this? Who answered by saying I'm completely okay with emulators? Anybody here on the panel said emulator is my plan A? Anyone here? Anyone? That would be Alan Murphy. Alan Murphy said emulators are fine for me.
I use emulators pretty much preferentially to keep the mileage down on the actual hardware.
Okay.
So, and plus I can do options with the emulators for hardware I don't have yet.
Right.
Or that is incredibly hard to get that I would like to develop. 2.
Sure. Yes.
So I don't have a speech sound pack, but I've got an emulator that can at least let me see if my code has a chance of working on one.
True.
So
Good point.
I tend to boot the emulator first, and then when occasionally, I got them with the hardware to just sit there. But
yeah.
At least once a day, you have to actually crank up Daggerath for real, because it does have the real deal feel. But yeah, emulator's fine for me. I tend to do that first.
Okay.
I do a hybrid myself. I mean, I like development wise, I'll do some stuff in the emulators especially if it's a big project that's going to take 5 minutes to assemble on a real CoCo, just because it's fast. But on the other hand, I always test on the real hardware. And if I'm doing smaller projects, I'll just do it on the CoCo itself, because if it takes 5 seconds, it's going to take me longer than that to run the SD card over than.
All right. I know Mikey had his hand up, but Simon might want to have something to chime in on too, because Simon does a lot of development. You're muted, Simon, if you want to unmute yourself.
I do a lot of dev on the PC, and I test it on VCC, and I test it on MAME, and then I'll test it on real hardware. I'll get someone else to test it on real hardware, because I do have a CoCo 3. Don't get me wrong, I do have a CoCo 3, but I don't want to burn it up, because
True. So, okay, Mikey.
Yeah, I agree with.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I agree with Curtis that development is better on an actual on an emulator, but using is where I was speaking from.
All right, okay, Mikey, and then Rick Euland. Go ahead, Mikey.
Yeah, I'm in the developer camp. I have MAME on all my machines, and I usually use that for development and most of the testing, whatever I can do, like the whole deload thing I tested with MAME. But I know I have a very small desk. I currently have 2 laptops on it, and there's no more space.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, I'm starting to use the CoCo Pi 4 a lot more, because I can sort of hide that underneath the monitors on the desk.
Yeah.
And also, I just take out the real hardware occasionally when I need to test something. So.
Yeah, Rick Euland.
Yeah. So since the CoCo is my toy, and I do have a little bit of spare hardware around, I prefer the live hardware. Not only that, but the products I'm designing are in that spirit. In other words, I'm not just dumping everything into a Arduino or something and getting it done. I'm trying to use small scale logic and kind of do things like it used to be done back in the old day. I don't know if it'll work out, but it's fun, so here I am.
I think I know the question for Ron Delvaux. Ron's not a real hardware guy, right? Ron, you're emulator all the way, right?
Nope, I'm hardware, emulator, and CoCo Pi. I use everything.
Yeah.
And another thing, on an emulator, can you make the 3 amigos come up?
Control Alt F1. You probably could. What is it? Control Alt Reset?
Yeah, you can. They come up.
Okay. I've never tried it yet. I just thought of it.
And it's easier to patch the ROM if you want someone other than the 3 amigos to come up.
It's easier to patch the virtual ROM than the physical ROM, right? So, but Ron's got a ton of hardware. So
yeah, I just did it on VCC.
Yeah. Who else? Nick Marentes, developer of fine products, enjoyed the world over. What's your response?
Yeah, I use real hardware pretty well exclusively. Very, very rarely do I use the emulators.
Even for development,
it's a retro hobby. Hey.
Even for development, you use hardware, which is unusual.
Yeah, I pretty well do it all. I go to an emulator if I just want to say take a screenshot and show it maybe on Discord.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's a retro hobby. It's not much of a retro hobby if you're not using retro hardware. So.
Okay. What about Tom C., the birthday boy? What do you get to say about all this?
Oh, I use emulators for some stuff, but no, I'm pro real hardware whenever possible.
Yeah. Very cool. I listen, I think a lot of us, when we started on emulators and probably have similar journeys. Since I've only been in the CoCo hobby like maybe 5 years now, I started on emulators just to, play the games. Then I got the fever of buying hardware, and I, at one point in time, had more hardware than one person should have, one sane person. I still have more hardware than I need. And don't get me wrong, I've got a CoCo 3 right in front of me, and I got my white CoCo 1 5 feet away with the CoCo VGA in it. I like having the real hardware. I like that real experience. But I'm going to tell you, the more I've been using the CoCo Pi, it's bringing a lot of quick, instant gratification into my life, because I can boot up the machine of my choice pretty quickly. This past week when we were playing Gana Buena, I was playing it with the speech sound pack in MAME, and it took up no space, and I could quickly fire it up in my living room or in my office. And for me to do this on my real CoCo, I'd have to go out to my garage, get my multi-pack, get my cartridge, and take up 4 feet of desk space to do that. So the fact I could do it all. Are you coughing or are you laughing back there, Alan Murphy? You're muted, but you're shaking in a way that I'm concerned for your health.
I'm laughing because Mr. Dave just put emulators don't catch fire, so where's the fun in that?
He's right.
I'm sure he could put enough voltage in a Pi to make it burst into flames. So I'm really starting to like the CoCo Pi for fun stuff, for quick and easy. Let me switch between CoCo 2, CoCo 3. Let me switch if I want to boot up. I don't have to contaminate one of my SD cards with that god awful Nitrous 9 operating system, but I could boot it up in my MAME on my CoCo Pi if I really wanted to torture myself. I could do that. So there's things you can do in a CoCo Pi. My only complaint about the CoCo Pi right now was not using a CoCo joystick, and there are ways around that, right? So you can get the CoCo joystick to USB adapter. So I am not poo-pooing hardware. I have hardware. I like hardware, but it takes up space. If I want to switch between CoCo 1s and CoCo 3s, I've got to swap machines around and do things. So it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's a thing. And so for me, the CoCo Pi is becoming more and more of an empowering way to enjoy the CoCo without all the swapping of space on my desk. Also limited space scenario. But if I had to choose only one, I would probably choose real hardware, but I like this hybrid option that we can do. And it doesn't mean I'm right and you guys are wrong. It's just more personal preference, right? Brian Schubring, what's your preference on all this?
Well, I grew up on the real thing.
You didn't grow up on an emulator? You weren't running MAME back in 1980?
Oh, no. I was on the real thing. Start with the CoCo 2, the CoCo 3, and then hacking everything apart. I actually still have my repacked CoCo. It's kind of dead. I got to fix the motherboard on it, see what's going on with it. But no, it's both have a place.
Yep.
In that, and emulators are great for when you're trying to do the some of the creation of new software, especially if you have to compile it, and that it's a whole lot faster to run underneath DriveWire or something like that, and then bang, a second later it's already compiled and compared to 15 minutes.
Right.
But anyway, it's both have their place, both have good points, and you definitely don't want to let out the magic smoke.
Absolutely. Yeah. Although you
do have to test, even if you're doing development, though, you do have to test on real hardware. As we discovered with Grabber when it was the GameON challenge here, that program, if you have a 6 or 9 installed, will not run. It will crash until I patched it.
Yeah.
On real hardware, CoCo 1, 2, or 3 didn't matter, but it worked on every single emulator. So every single emulator has a bug compared to the real hardware on that particular case, and there's probably a few of those hiding around the corner.
Right, right.
Oh, absolutely.
There are things sometimes that an emulator can't do because it's not emulating good enough. There are some things an emulator will let happen that real hardware won't let happen, and vice versa. So it's good if you are developing a product, you kind of would like your product to work on the real hardware and the emulator. So a part of your development cycle and testing process should be probably to test it on everything, on hardware. And because we have a plethora of emulators too, does it run well on VCC? Does it run well on XROAR? Does it run well on MAME? And of course, does it run on the real hardware, which is the most important part, right? So 2 thumbs up from Simon Jonason back there. And Alan Murphy. Very cool. Tom C., you said you like hardware, right? Yep.
Yes, that is correct.
Mark Bosley, your preference, sir? Are you still around, or are you working on stuff?
Still around, just trying to play Tetris here.
Getting a head start on the game of the week.
Getting a head start. What's with that?
Yeah.
So, I only use hardware because that's all I know how to use. I haven't figure it out. Taking the time to try to figure out how to even install an emulator.
Yeah, I hear you. Cool. So yeah, I think it's a resounding. Everybody would like to say, shoot, yeah, I'd love that real hardware. What I will say, especially because we did a few weeks ago, we did a show topic of back to CoCo. If you're getting back into CoCo, what do you need to know? So let's say right now you're new to getting into the CoCo. You'd love to have a CoCo 3, but guess what? You can't find CoCo 3s on eBay as often as you would like. You can't find CoCo 3s at a reasonable price anymore. And then you have to hope that it works. And then once you get it, guess what? Well, you need a CoCo SDC. You need a switcheroo cable. You need this. You need that. Not that you need, but these are all the quality of life things you can add to it. So now you're looking at to get a CoCo 3 with real hardware and multi-pack and SDC and this and that and the other. You're probably looking at $1,000 investment to get your CoCo 3 the way you really want it if you want to be a pimped out Mac Daddy CoCo 3 operator in the 21st century. And not that there's anything wrong with that if you've got the money and you've got the time and you've got the space, or for about $100, you could set up the CoCo Pi and you could run a CoCo 3 with 512 or 2 megs and a 6309 and a multi-pack, and you could boot into YaDOS or RGB DOS or Nitrous 9, God forbid, or anything else. And you could spend $100 and take up about 4 square inches of space on your desk. So there are some compelling benefits to doing an emulator as well. Cost saving and space savings, but it's not the same thing. Although we're now bridging that gap because Paul Fiscarelli has the CoCo keyboard to USB adapter. So there are people who have taken a CoCo case, put in the Raspberry Pi in the case, and hooked up the real CoCo keyboard. And now we have the CoCo joystick to USB adapters. So you could actually have all the CoCo hardware shell encasing a CoCo Pi, and that is a good hybrid, I think, right? Curtis Boyle has one. You talked about it last week. Have you tried it out at all, Curtis?
Yes, I have.
And how do you like it?
It does work.
Works good?
Yeah,
right,
I wouldn't recommend the Black Beauty for whatever game was last week because that sucked. But,
and I think Ron Delvaux's got one, right? Ron Delvaux, don't you have a CoCo Pi in a CoCo case? Yeah. So that's kind of a hybrid. You want the feel of hardware, you want the look and the smell of the hardware, and you could do that and run a CoCo Pi. So again, there's no wrong way to CoCo, but I thought that was a cool.
Hey, I had my CoCo Pi up and running, and I was going to hit reset. And there is no reset. That was funny.
Yeah. Where's the reset key?
There is none.
Yeah. So some of the things I like with the emulator that you can only do on an emulator is like a pause key, right? So you could, like I have my Xbox controller start button mapped to pause. So if I want to pause any game, regardless if that game was designed to be paused or not, I can press the start button on my Xbox controller and pause that game because I'm pausing the emulator. So that's kind of cool, you know? So there are some neat things that you can only do in an emulator that you could never do in real hardware. So very cool. Good discussion. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Any thoughts, opinions, stories? Anyone? Mark D. Overholzer, we haven't heard from you at all, and thank God. But go ahead.
Well, I'm new to the CoCo realm, but I prefer real hardware. I mean, before I got my CoCo 3 that I got along with Apple IIe Platinum, I had some other Apple hardware as well. So I like the real hardware. But emulators are great, and etching space. The other thing is portability. It's like every one of my laptops has MAME on it. It has Vice for the Commodore. It has Apple emulators and VCC and XROR. So I can take those with me and I can put anything somewhere and just do something. But also all my desktops do. Even my machine at work has it.
Yeah.
It's like pull something up and do something. Yeah. But I have the CoCo 3 on the other side of the Apple IIe here. And it's got CoCo SDC and an MPI.
Right. Well, here, I'll give you a good example too, where I would not, because I've never owned an Apple. Right. I have the Apple IIc I got a year or so ago at CoCo Fest. Yep. I'm looking forward to firing that up and playing at that. And you gave me a copy of the Oregon Trail on a couple of floppies, and Mikey gave me the cable for the DriveWire, or the software to run the DriveWire type program. So I am looking forward to experiencing an Apple II experience on a real Apple II. So yeah, there is something very cool about touching that keyboard and putting in that floppy and booting up. There's absolutely some cool things that you can't do anywhere else. And as I am putting my toes into the water that is the MC10, I have zero interest of emulating an MC10 because the MC10 is such a unique machine. Its size, its shape, the keyboard, for better or worse, it is not the best keyboard to type on, but it's a really cool keyboard for bringing up graphics and stuff like that. And so as I'm starting to mess with the MC server and the MCX 128 and all these things, I absolutely want to experience that on hardware, because the fact that I can emulate MCX over MAME and run things on a virtual MC10 over a virtual MC, is something's lost in there. But the fact that I have a serial cable plugged into my MC10 and I'm now loading Jim Gary's software over a wire into the MC10 and putting it up on the screen, to me, all of those pieces together make for a very cool thing that I'm doing. That is only cool because I'm doing it on real hardware. The fact that I can emulate all that, right? So there's definitely something to be said about doing cool stuff with real hardware, right? So, and I'm very fortunate. Again, I've said this a million times. The MC10 is a fantastic machine. It's an incredible machine. I'm very lucky. I've got two MC10s because I bought them when I knew I got good prices. So I got my good one and I got a backup. So.
All right. I remember when you used to talk about Nitrous 9 that way.
How many of you
the very
guys?
first time I met Stevie's like, oh yeah, I love the MC10. It's the best.
That's
machine
fantastic.
ever.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago, he was saying that.
Oh, yeah. What about the Dragon?
I have a Dragon too. I'm looking forward, I'm looking forward to running my real Dragon. Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Well, Dragon is either popping the game packs on the side, or it's load in by cassette, and that seems to be mostly the way that the machine was used, right?
It had a disk drive.
Right. Well, before we continue
you can configure an SDC to use with the Dragon.
Yeah, or the Dragon MMC.
There is software available to use with it.
Right.
But how the heck do you use the DOS? There's no instructions around.
Well, and the thing is, in Europe, disk drives did not exist. Everything was cassette or ROM pack.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was.
Yeah, the drive was too
There's not much
expensive.
support and blah blah.
Yeah, I'm eventually going to want to get the Dragon MMC, which is kind of like their CoCo SDC, but it lets you load cassette files and stuff off an SD card, since there seems to be a much larger library of CAS files than there are disk files. There are a number of disk files that already exist that you can run off the CoCo SDC, and I'm sure they could be converted.
I have two words for you guys.
What's that, Michael Furman?
The two words are Ask Henry.
Ask Henry. Henry Reitveld's done it, right?
Henry Reitveld. I don't know if he plans to publish it or if it's only upon request, but I got like 1 point something gigabytes of disk images from him for my Dragon.
Okay.
It has all kinds of stuff on it. Like some of the games that you demoed on GameON, was it like Jet Set Willy or something? I actually played a couple of the games that I think you guys showed last week on my Dragon from the SDC. So the two words I have for you, if you want to put, not for the instructions. For the instructions, I might be able to help you. But he's got a ton of software in disk images already.
Okay. So a lot of that heavy lifting's been done and getting the CASs converted to disk.
Was there a multi-pack for the Dragon?
I don't know.
I believe you could always use the
Tandy one.
The Tandy one. It's hardware compatible.
I couldn't hear Simon. Simon, you want to repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, not offhand. There was no multi-pack for the Dragon, but as Mikey said, you could use the Tandy multi-pack for the Dragon. Another thing you might look into for the Dragon is Tormod's, Tormod Volden, his Moo board.
Yeah, it's his 512K MMU and everything else board.
On a cartridge.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the Dragon MMC is kind of like the CoCo SDC, but it'll load disks and CAS files and I think bins and stuff like that too, all straight from.
We forget sometimes.
What's that?
We forget the Dragon is not like the CoCo 3.
Right, it's CoCo 1 and 2.
CoCo 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yeah. It's the same as the CoCo 1 and 2. The DOS, the basic, is different. The DOS is completely different. And if anyone has any problems with figuring out the DOS and how to load shit and stuff like that, just give me a bell.
There you go. Hit up Simon.
Yeah. Actually, to be honest, their DOS was more advanced than ours.
Yeah, it was.
The cartridge, the DOS cartridge, actually used the FIRQ instead of NMI.
Yeah, and it was actually sector-based, not granule-based, so you saved disk space. There was a ton of things about it. It just supported 40-track drives, double-sided drives, all kinds of stuff right out of the box.
We had ADOS do that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was it. You had to pay extra to get that. The Dragon DOS you got from Dragon actually did all that right off the get-go.
Yeah, but there's more years that we've had ADOS free than those that you had to buy it.
Well, the Dragon DOS came with the disk controller, wasn't it?
Yeah, it came out in 82, 83,
Yeah.
so that's before ADOS 1.
Right, because the Dragon DOS wasn't made by Microsoft, right? So that's the main difference, right? So that's why it was probably better.
But it is quite incompatible. So like Ron said, like I had the same problem the first time I tried to run the Dragon emulator. And I'm trying to.
So it's not. Do you still type in dir to list out your directory, or?
Yeah.
Nope. I don't think.
No.
Is dir one of the ones that work? But there's a few commands
don't
that are
know.
similar. But basically, no, they're quite different.
And where do you find them?
There's got to be a manual on the archive for Dragon DOS. Yeah, or
For Dragon DOS, yes, there is.
Yeah.
And then there's some documentation for the extensions as well.
Right, and then there's the whole Dragon group on Facebook. I'm sure you can always ping those guys.
Also, a Dragon group. It's I can't remember the name of it, but I will post a link somewhere where you can find out anything you need to know about a dragon.
Was it the World of Dragon
forum?
Archive?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a forum there that you can get a lot of questions answered.
Yeah.
To.
The World
Terry
of Dragon.
Steggy just got a drive controller for his Dragon stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the documentation's got to be out there. So even though we don't know what the commands are, I'm sure they're easy enough to find. So
I was able to find it and figure it out.
yeah. All right, I think something even more important needs to be discussed right now. So let's switch over to something really important here. Let's talk about Nick Marotta, the smooth Canadian, everybody. That is this week's retro photograph here. So just remember, this Canadian has a reputation for smoothness. So you won't catch him drinking anything less than the smoothest whiskey around. So
Never new
Windsor.
sponsor.
Windsor, a whiskey with glacier-fed spring water and aged in the clear, clean air of the Canadian Rockies. Nick Marotta, smooth Canadian. Yes, please drink responsibly. So back to our regularly scheduled discussion at this time. Will the shenanigans ever
did
stop?
that was very funny. Thank you.
It was. So you have a lot of fans, Nick.
Yes, I do.
So I think the overwhelming verdict is the majority of people seem to prefer real hardware. Real hardware is obviously very cool, and there's many good reasons for doing it. Emulators, don't feel ashamed if you're you should not feel embarrassed or ashamed if you're an emulator user, and that's fine, right?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
So like back in the day, 1986, the Color Computer 3 comes out, and maybe a few months after that, you learn that you can upgrade the CPU, and then there's a multi-pack. Would you expend the same amount of money then as you would now for a top-of-the-line CoCo 3?
I think we all ended up there gradually. I know I went from just the cassette to adding the card to adding the disc to adding the multi-pack to I kept adding on over the years. So I ended up spending probably over $1,000 on my CoCo setup because it was $400 or $500 for the CoCo, $400 or $500 for the floppy, $200 for the multi-pack, another $100 for the speech sound cartridge.
So are we ahead these days, or were we
I think we can get more for less now. Right?
Yes, definitely.
We can get more hardware for
okay.
Yeah, like
I mean, a hard drive system back then was $1,000 at the beginning type thing, and now you can get an SDC, which is a hard drive and a floppy for under $100.
Yeah, you don't need as much stuff.
I mean, I'm not gonna go ahead.
I was gonna say we are starting to get parity because the CoCo 3 is now $300, which was about what it
it released at. Yeah, so.
CoCo 3 is one exception, I have to say.
So the future may change.
You never know. Yeah.
Although if you say $1983 or $1986.
Well, wait a minute. We forgot about Ed Snyder.
Right.
That changes everything.
Right.
He'll probably have a CoCo 4 coming out that has the Gimme X and all kinds of goodies on it.
Oh, as long as it has a real-time clock.
Yes.
So. All right.
Then Stevie will finally quit complaining about Nitrous 9.
Oh, I've said it a million times. Nitrous 9 is a fantastic operating system. It's incredible. Multitasking, just hit clear.
Just don't force you to use it.
Yeah, it's really entering that date at the beginning that really sucks experience away.
Are we gonna have Nitrous 9 on the
GameON
MC10?
challenge?
No,
On
MC10.
On the MC10.
No.
That was fast.
Yes.
Actually,
I've
that
seen
does
the
remind
6803.
me.
No.
We get a lot of scores coming in the GameON challenge on emulators. So, like, if you don't have a CoCo, you can still take part in the GameON challenge. Like, just want to get people playing. So don't feel like, if you can emulate it for whatever reason.
Can the MC10 emulate the CoCo?
Not yet. Jim Geary's probably working on that.
It's not a CoCo
It emulates
project.
BASIC pretty well.
I tell you,
Well, the MCX Basic is very extended basic.
It is very extended basic like. Yeah. Now the other thing too I love about the MC server is that typing in dir on an MC10 is just so cool because I'm listing out things that are not on that computer. They're coming over the wire. I get a kick out of that. The fact that I can list directories and load programs on my MC10 that never had a floppy drive is kind of cool.
You know what I used to do is I used to type in basic, a disk extended color basic screen.
And just like print it up, just have it print up on the screen. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Look.
when like when the Tron movie first came out, I'd always have my stuff replaced with master control program by Tandy, copyright whatever, okay, right? So I had stuff like that going on my screens and stuff too. Yeah. Simon Jonason, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you being here, sir. It's always good to see you.
No worries.
Thanks for your new demo. It looks pretty good.
We showed off your demo. We mentioned you were on the CoCo Crew podcast. We've encouraged everybody to listen to your interview. We appreciate all that you do and all of your madness. Tom C., the birthday boy, is here. Tom C., we are celebrating the birthday of Tom C. from
Where
Jersey.
were you when you first met Tom C?
And we were going to talk about how Tom C. impacted our lives. So that'll be our parting thoughts. So Nick Marotta, how did Tom C. impact your life?
I will never, ever hear the word nonsense again without thinking of Tom C. That is his word. He claims ownership of that in my heart.
L. Curtis Boyle, how's Tom C. impacted your life?
In so many ways, I can't even reflect on that. This would be a 6-hour show if I did that.
Brian Schubring.
Unmanageable.
Ron Delvo.
That's Tom C++, okay?
C plus Tom C++. I'm sorry, Curtis. I cut you off. Were you getting ready to say something else?
Nope.
Okay. Mark Bosley, how has Tom C. impacted your life?
He's got a heck of a basement.
Heck of a basement. That's right. Tom C's Arcade. Nick Marentes, thank you for being here from Australia. How has Tom C. impacted your life?
Who's Tom C?
Mark D. Overholzer. I know Tom C. has really been a mentor to you, spiritual advisor, financial advisor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's right. Oh, that's right. I owe him some money still. Just learning about, him working in the arcade industry and repairing stuff, he has so much insight into not just the arcade games, but, what it took to make them go and the unique things in them. So.
Yeah. Anyway. Listening to him fix a screen on Discord and sometimes electrocute himself is always fun. Michael Furman, how's Tom C. impacted your life? It's got to be for the better.
Oh yeah, he's just he's a wealth of knowledge and encourages me to keep gaming and try to keep from rage quitting.
Okay, very good. Patrick Euland, I know some of your circuit designs were inspired by Tom C. So what impact, what thumbprint has he left for you?
Well, I know how to pronounce Joyzy.
Alan Murphy.
Oh my goodness. Let's just say it's kind of a daily impact and the volume goes up and down because I can't seem to escape him on Discord.
All right.
Vice versa. Not sure what.
My favorite Tom C. story was when we were at VCF Midwest. It was our final night. We're at Buffalo Wild Wings. We ordered some hot wings. Those wings were so hot I couldn't even eat them, and Tom just chowed them down. So Tom is a guy who just will eat a wing no matter how hot it is. And there's something to be said about that.
Tom, did you keep him down?
All right, Tommy C, happy birthday to you, to everybody who's been watching.
Actually, we have one other person to ask, though, about
what's that?
The
Who's
influence
that?
of Tom
Who
C.
do we miss?
Tom C, how have you influenced Tom C?
Well, we can go and I don't want to go into that now.
All right, we're gonna press the button, Frank. We're gonna roll the outro, and then we're gonna end the show.
You're a good
Thank
friend,
you,
Tom C.
It's a good man. This concludes another episode of CoCo Talk, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer. For all things CoCo Talk, visit us on the web at cocotalk.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live.
CoCo Talk is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, 'cause CoCo Talk is rocking the 8-bit world.
Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, click the Patreon link at our website at cocotalk.live.
CoCo Talk is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, 'cause CoCo Talk is rocking the 8-bit world.
CoCo Talk would not exist without the community, its cast, crew, and contributors. Thanks go to Curtis Boyle, David Ladd, Mark Overholzer, Grant Leedy, Bruce Moore, Nick Marentes, Ron Delvaux, Rick Adams, Jason Reichert, Richard Lorbieski, Jim Brain, Tom C., Rob Inman, Mark Bosley, Brian Joyce, Ken Reichert, David O'Connor, Brian Weasler, Terry Steggy, Nick Marotta, John Strong, and many more, especially to Steve Bjork for production suggestions and James Differendaffer for making my head explode. Please help support the CoCo community by visiting some of its various contributors. A list of resources is available at imacoconut.com. That's imacoconut.com. The CoCo Talk theme song is copyright 2008 by D. Bruce Moore and Greg Sheeler. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. With a name so nice, you must say it thrice. And every time I see Terry Steen in that outro, I must remind you all that no furniture was harmed during the making or production or streaming of this show. CoCo Talk Live is responsible with all furniture at all times. Thank you guys for being here. Happy birthday, Tom C. from Jersey. Happy birthday, America. Not anywhere near as important as Tom C., but happy birthday to America nonetheless. And July was also the 40th anniversary of the CoCo, right? Isn't it July 30th?
1980.
End of July.
Yeah, so we're almost coming up on the 40th anniversary of the CoCo. So we've got many things to celebrate in July. You know, the independence, Tom C., the 40th anniversary of the CoCo. July is a good month, right? All right, guys, I'm pressing the button. Say goodbye, everybody.